Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to another live stream here on the 320 Sim Pilot channel. Thank you all very much for coming along this afternoon. And as you've probably seen from the title, our plan today is to take this beautiful A321 in our old Air Tours livery. Once again, me indulging my old liveries that I remember growing up. And we're going to fly it first of all across to Gran Canaria. Very short flight, about half an hour, and then we're going to fly north up to Funchal. As you can see, once again, I've cheated. We've modified it into a Neo, and I'm afraid I still haven't given in. I'm keeping the small wingtip fences as opposed to the Neo sharklets, which you'd expect. Although I can't help but admire the detailing that went into this livery. As always, the bot should be there if you want to pick up this livery, and I'm hoping the bot will wake up shortly, so anyone who wants to fly along has that option. It should, I don't know why, every time we start a stream it seems to take a little while to get going, but eventually ! commands will tell you all the different bot commands we've got, and !route, I've changed it from flight plan, it's now !route, should give you that, because I know that's what everyone was expecting. So I'll jump into the chat and say hello to everyone. So thanks for coming along. We've got Sathvik, a new name I don't recognise, Ariel, Richard, thanks for coming along, Swappy, Tango Delta, all long-term viewers, thank you for coming along again today. Liz05, thank you. So it's great to see you all here. Mateo, Chewy as well, thank you. Gonza Esba, I don't know how to do the last word there, but hopefully that captures the essence of it. Philos as well, Thomas Mortimer, thank you for coming along. Yes, long time no see. It has been a bit of a break in videos since the last one, so apologies for that. As you guys know, things are sort of changing around in the industry at the moment, and there is some work going, and there's also training still going on. So there are occasionally periods where I can't sadly make videos. I do intend to keep making them even once back to work in a more full-time sense. So yeah, hopefully we'll keep going with this. But yeah, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. Michael B, yeah, Madeira, that's where we're finally going. A few people mentioned it last time. Carter Joel, I knew you'd say this. Thanks for coming along. And as I was loading up for this stream, I noticed the wind today is quite strong here in Lanzarote. As a few people on the Discord have been mentioning, we've got a good 30 knots down the runway, northerly wind gusting, and it seems to trigger this windmilling effect in the LEAP engines. That mod, eventually when the bot starts working, !LEAP will give you the link to Carter Joel's great work on these engines. But sadly, I did not update them. This is the second version, I think, so I did get that far, Carter, but I apologise, I haven't done the last one, which should fix the windmilling issue as I understand it. Sorry, Matteo, the route isn't working yet, so I'll show you guys in a second, but effectively it's very short. The first flight, we're going to go from GCRR to Lorpo, and then Lorpo will take us straight onto our arrival to GCLP. So yeah, really short first one. Fly Guy 1, thanks for coming along. Good to see you guys here. Yeah, the bot, I don't understand. Let me just try and wake it up. Some more experienced people may know what I'm doing wrong with this. It's there, and we've got commands running. Okay, give it another go in the next couple of minutes. Yeah, I don't know, Nightbot does seem to make sense now, absolutely. So, let's get ourselves started and underway. This livery will be available as well if you type in !livery, although the engines are slightly modified. So the engines it comes with the natural CFM, as this aircraft was originally flown with, but we just modified the LEAP textures that Carter kindly provided, and then we made it into just the Air Tours blue. So Air Tours airline existed around the same time. We're talking actually probably a bit earlier than the Air 2000 livery we saw before. They effectively were the competition. They turned into My Travel, so anyone growing up in England or who lived in England at the time will probably remember that orange airline, My Travel. That eventually became a part of Thomas Cook along with JMC, so those all became Thomas Cook eventually. So as a result of that, we're going to use the call sign you people may have heard before, Kestrel, which is quite a nice one. I quite like Kestrel. Another of my favourites would be Cactus, which the Americans, and I think V1 Simulations uses that one a lot, so yeah, Cactus is quite a good one, but Kestrel I really like as well. So that's what we're going to use today. We're going to be Kestrel 221 for this flight. But yeah, as you can see, really windmilling engines. Now you'd be surprised, in 30 knots of wind, I mean, although the wind is across us here, because the wind's sort of north-south and this is facing west, you'd be surprised how on the real airplane, those fans can be spinning so fast that you might not be able to get a clear view of each blade just be a bit of a blur to your eyes. So you just sort of have to step back and get an overall picture. So they can windmill, and probably, I don't know how fast that actually is, but certainly at some decent speed, even sometimes enough to register on here. Right, what we will do is, I've got the right seat set up for later. That's going to be for when we go into Madeira. So for now, let's get ourselves started on the way to Gran Canaria. So the logic is we're going to do the short hop over to Gran Canaria, pick up a few more passengers. So we've got about 100 on board here, and then we'll pick up a few more and head north to Funchal. Now, of course, it's been a little while since the last stream. I just want to say thank you all to everyone for your support since we've started doing this. It's been really great to see the community come together and enjoy it, and been active in the Discord. And there's many of you I know on there as well. So thank you all for contributing and being a part of it. I know a few of you have also been promoting the channel a little bit in the last couple of days, just as we headed up to 1,000 subscribers, which we've now reached, which is amazing. I really can't believe it. It's been such a strange ride, really, to go from, I mean, as a few of you have been here since back when we were under 100, I think, and it's slowly risen over this time, which is really great. So thank you very much for your support in doing that. And yeah, we're just going to carry on from here and keep it going and see if anyone else continues to want to join us. But really exciting, and I'm hoping to do something special for the 1,000. I didn't realise today we'd have 1,000, so I wasn't quite set up for it. This was just going to be a normal stream, but we got there slightly quicker than I expected. There you go, FlyGuy1 here at 73 subs. Thanks for coming along. DG27, another from way back when we started out, so thanks for coming along, DG. Right, let's have a look at what's going on with the Cloudbot. I do not understand, guys. I'm really sorry. What am I missing? Well, it's telling me it's enabled. I just don't know. I'm really sorry about that, guys. I may have to. We're going to have probably a break at some point today because of the 2 sectors. So if that happens, I'll have to get you guys the links then. But yeah, so you'll see the route I'm loading up in a second. In fact, let's do that now so that if anyone wants to fly along with us, they can. So we're starting off here on the init page from. Oh, that's wrong. GCRR Lanzarote, and we're going to be flying to GCLP Golf Charlie Lima Papa, which is Gran Canaria. Alternate's going to be GCTS Tango Sierra. That's going to be Tenerife South, which is obviously one more island over. So we're heading west by a couple of islands in the Canaries, and then the alternate is even further west over at Tenerife, which we can see in here. It's only a half-hour flight to get there, and then the alternate is another half an hour away. So it's quite a way to the alternate, really. Tenerife South is quite far west. I was surprised how long it would take to get across the islands. We're going to be the AIH, which I think is Air Tours, maybe International, I'm not sure, AIH 221, which will become Kestrel 221, obviously, for our flight as we head over. Right, that is init A. Obviously, we're still on data. It's going to be the cycle 2007, so I don't think they've updated that yet. Yeah, so that's init. Cost an X34, quite a high cost an X today, and we're only going to cruise at 250. If we go to flight plan, departure, taking off from 03, and if we have a look at the wind, you'll see why. It is pretty definitively going to have to be a takeoff from 03, 010, 27, gusting 37, 27 degrees. That is a windy day. Now, the Canary Islands are obviously quite famous for their winds, and you can see why. They are stuck out in the ocean, in the Atlantic, so it does make sense. But there we go. Lovely strong north wind. As a result of that, I will need my SID from that runway, which is going to be flight planned as, I believe we're going, oh, let me check before I get it messed up in my head. Lorpo. Yep, Lorpo SID. There we go, Lorpo, and this is going to be a really simple flight plan. Let's just bring it up on here, stick on the terrain just so you'll see where the island is. Plan and zoom in. How's that cockpit? It looks pretty dark, even on my own screen, actually. Just jumping in the chat again. There you go, 88 when Ariel F came along. Matt Haynes, hey, thanks for coming along. Good to see you. Mazen as well. Yeah, been about, I think, just over a week off, so thanks for coming along. Yeah, Matteo, sorry, I'll show you carefully what we're doing. Oh, there you go, Fuerteventura makes literally strong winds. That would make sense. So I should have known that. That's embarrassing. Yeah, very good. Right, so ending at Lorpo, and then as you can see, our flight plan is from Lorpo 1 kilo. So arrival is going to be northerly. Now, let's think. if we think about the airport in Gran Canaria, I should have done this earlier. I know it's got dual runways. Let's have a look. GCLP. I think we're going to land on the right if we're landing northerly. Now, somebody in the chat may know more than me, but that's my current expectation. Yeah, on the right because the terminal's on the left. This would be quite common. If you have dual runways, it's quite normal for airports to land on the one that's furthest away from the terminal and take off from the closest one. And that way you don't have airplanes waiting to cross here while there's landing and they can't get to take off. And it does mean when you land, you've got to be really careful not to enter the runway. You can see they put that no entry sign there. Really important you don't roll onto that runway without stopping and getting clearance to do it. So good. So 03 right. And as we always say, the Zulu is most likely to be expected. Well that's embarrassing. What have we got? We've got an RLS for 03 left, RLS for 21, a localizer for 03 left, localizer 21, VOR. Well, maybe I'm talking nonsense. Maybe they don't land on the right. Maybe they must land on the left. I wonder why. I can't imagine there's any terrain difference between the two. Okay then, well we'll assume it's going to be the left, Zulu. That'll make most sense. And we're going via Lorpo again. And which Lorpo are we expecting? We want the Lorpo 1 kilo. Ooh, there's a good question as well. This is getting embarrassing. GCLP, and we expect to arrive via Lorpo. Flight Surgeon says, why is Zulu most likely to be expected? I don't know. To be honest, why they chose it to be that way round, but that's typically what they should be used. It is hidden away in ICAO somewhere. But yeah, Zulu is typically the most normal approach to be using. Right, arrival, Eneto or Lalto? We're coming in by Lorpo 1 kilo. Lorpo 1 kilo. Which looks like it brings us into, well I see either, but the kilo takes us to Lalto, so we're going to go by Lalto. There we go. Okay, good. So we've got a rough plan there. If I can keep track of all these tabs, I'll be very impressed with myself. And there we go, there's our flight plan. Hopefully Mateo's managed to follow along. We'll copy that, which I'm going to use the secondary in a second. In fact, let's do it now. So, departing from 03 in Lanzarote poses a few issues, which you may already be aware of, as you can see. So we're parked up here at the terminal. And we've got this Iberia as well, coming along. Or maybe that's coming along, is that Mateo? I'm not entirely sure. So, you can see here, we're going to head off on this runway behind us. So we landed, northerly last time. Along here, down to 03, and we're going to depart 03. Got these hills right in front of us, and they rise up quite steeply. They make the approach onto the runway 21 a little bit challenging, a bit of a steeper approach. So obviously a similar problem for departure. It means that we can't, we have to be a bit careful heading straight out north. So let's have a look at what we're going to do about that. So airlines probably will have some sort of procedure or contingency procedure in case of an engine failure. Now, most SIDs are supposed to be designed so that even if you have an engine failure, you'll actually meet the climb gradients for terrain safety and so on, even on one engine. But it's not always possible. And this might be an example of that. You can see here at 4 miles, we need to be above 1,600 feet. So that's quite a tight restriction to make at a heavy weight on a single engine. 7% climb gradient as well, which is pretty high. Pretty high. So look at that. At a constant ground speed of, let's say, taking off around a V2 of 150 knots over the ground, it'll be a bit lower with a headwind. We need to make over 1,100 feet per minute. Now, if we have an engine failure, we won't be making 1,100 feet per minute for the entire way up to that hill. So we're going to need some sort of backup plan. Initial ATC clearance 4,000. So let's set that in here. I did not see that one earlier. 4,000. So what are we going to do about that climb gradient? Well, if we have an engine failure, we'll need to basically turn somewhere safe, and all airlines will have their own ideas how they want this done and where they want it done. So we're just going to make one up today. So what I'm about to say is not approved for anyone trying to fly to Lanzarote, but what I'm going to do is if I have an engine failure before this point, so that's 12 miles out, 3,200 feet, if I have a problem on this leg here before turning back around over the high terrain, which I can see, and I know there's terrain here, I'm just going to turn right out to sea, and let's say just make it right onto heading 120 degrees. So that's going to be the simplest way for me. Once we've done that, usually some sort of engine failure procedure like that would also describe where you need to go. So it'll be somewhere safe and out to sea where you can go and hold and then sort of plan what you're going to do next. So I can see if I turn right, that MSA is 2,000. So I need to get above 2,000 feet because here it's 3.5. So I make that right turn, and I've had a look earlier, and there's this chart from the arrivals which shows me there's a hold at Bapal. So if I turn right and then head to Bapal, I can hold there safely, minimum holding altitude of 5,000 feet. So I can actually do that today. We normally skip over the secondary a bit, but we're going to use it today. So quick jump into the chat. Flight 24, yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed delivery. It's one of my indulgent ones. I promise, guys, I'm running out of these old school British holiday charter airlines to be using. There's only a couple more left, and I'm not sure they've been made in X-Plane yet. Michael B says, I understand the TCAS has not been fixed. I haven't had a look at that. I don't know. So yeah, I have to have a look. Okay. Will Josh Games, thanks for coming along. Glad you've enjoyed it, and hello from Spain. Excellent. Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. We have done a few Spanish flights. That's sort of the part of the world we were flying around just before we headed out to here, and obviously we're in Spain here. The flight surgeon says, do you notice any differences in handling the Neo aircraft versus the older engine ones? In X-Plane, no, because they haven't updated it. This is a visual mod. In the real airplanes, absolutely. There's a big difference, which I'll chat about as we get underway. But having those big fan blades does make a difference, especially in the flare, because they're hanging under the engines, and they do make it a difference in the landing, definitely. Right, so let's have a look at our secondary flight plan, and let's get set up with something as a backup. So I've loaded up the primary, so let's copy that as I did. So I said up until that 12-mile point, which is D050L, L being 12, I'm assuming, I want to make a right turn straight away. Now, there's no way to put that into the box where it just immediately turns right. Maybe there is if you're smarter than me, but I'm just going to simply put in the hold I talked about after that point. So that's D050L as an overfly. Won't go next to the limit, but it can go in there. Interesting. It's made it a left turn. No matter. We're going to do it manually initially anyway. Oh, no, not save. Then we got Bapal. From Bapal, new destination, most likely going to return here. So GCRR. And then I'm just going to stick in, just ready for earlier, RS03 Zulu. Sorry, ready for later in case we need it. Now if I zoom out, I can see I've got that in there. Now, very important, it's not going to make a right turn. It looks like it's going to try and go left around like that. Perhaps I could clear out the overlay. That little delta there is this button here, which overfly. So what it will do is it makes sure it flies past that point. But obviously the way it's coded, it's going to go left. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to activate the secondary. There won't be time because I've got all those hills. I'm just going to go it into heading, turn the airplane right, and then from there we can activate the secondary and put it direct to the hold. It just means these points are all in here ready to go. So this is quite a basic one to do, but it could be useful. And there we go. So Bapal, and it's worth sticking in the hold there in case you don't get the time later. 334 right turns. Now, as I said, this is not a real procedure. This is just something that is representative of what might have to be done. And there we go. From there, the ILS. As I should have said at the start, although I am a real Airbus pilot, this is all just for our home use. My regular viewers will be bored of hearing that, I'm sure. But yeah, this is just for our fun and explain, just to give you a bit of an idea of what might go on. Right, so what is done? I've already got the fuel on. So, in fact, what I can do is, in fact, what I would do, most likely, is, although I've got that secondary ready, it's useful to give yourself a bit of awareness on your primary flight plan as well. And the easy way to do that is to go fix info. And now I can just draw in that hold, or that fix, Bapal. So if I've decided that's where I'm going, it's down there, and I'll put in a 5-mile ring just to help me see it. 5, there it is. And that's now there, whether or not I'm looking at the secondary or the primary flight plan. So that's just a bit more of a visible cue. Some departures may include getting onto a radial, so I could draw the radial as well, but we know this one doesn't. We just got to get right out to sea. Excellent. So fuel, the fuel is on. We've got 6 tons of fuel, which is balanced. And that is important to check. It could be accidentally for some sort of fueling error. Maybe the valves didn't open in the right sequence. You could get it out of sequence. Although the airplane will fly with 1 tank full and 1 tank empty, it can still balance itself out. But there are limitations on takeoff. So we can't take off with huge imbalances because it's just not designed for it, really. So that fueling's on. 6 tons, and I'll show you why. If we go here, it's a really windy day. Now, I'm not expecting any holding because I know the Canaries are quiet. It's just us here today. 5.4 tons of fuel, just over, was what we required. That gave us 15 minutes contingency to hold when we get there, which is great. I could use that for another approach into Gran Canaria. It's a northerly runway, so it's pretty much into winds, so that should be all right. But yeah, I can use that for that, and then I've got 500 extra to maybe have another go, or go to Tenerife, because we've got a good alternate fuel here, 1.4 tons. So 500 extra is more than enough for a windy day with that contingency fuel, in my opinion, on this flight today, just because I know we're not expecting any delays. Now, if everybody's going around, you could have huge delays, and you may need to consider more, but it's nice and explained when we know that that's less of a risk, although anything can change. Right, so there we go. Let me just check I've got the ToLiss loaded up properly. Quick jump into the chat just to see who else has come along since then. Thomas Mortimer, could you please bring the Monarch livery back? Yeah, Monarch livery. I think there's one of those out for the ToLiss, so that could be one we could definitely use. Monarch JMC is another one I'm desperate to use, but I can't find. It's not been made. Somebody's made one for the Flight Factor, but not the ToLiss 321 yet. Captain Geo, thanks for coming along. Good to see you here again. David Doyle, thanks again for coming. Fluky86. Can't wait to get the Thrustmaster Airbus sidestick and throttle in September. Oh, there you go. Fluky's obviously gone for that. I think it was called was it the First Officers Collection or something like that? Yeah. So that's good to go. Right. Let's have a look at what we're going to do here. Pavel, thanks for coming along. Pavel Kostrov, another regular viewer. Good to see you. So, you can see all my previous saves that I've used in various videos. Right, let's go to loading perf just to prove I've done this and to remind myself if I haven't. Zero fuel weight 60.4. 60.4, 100 passengers. They obviously didn't come with much luggage, but I suppose they may have been mainly carrying flip-flops and some sun cream, and that's about it. So there we go. Even though, once again, disappointingly, this grey sky we're facing in Lanzarote. I don't know how that keeps happening when I go. That gives us takeoff weight somewhere around 66 tons, which is what we're expecting. So let's get that loaded into the box. Dink, dink. So secondary, radio nav aids. We're going out to Bapal on the RNAV. Init B 60.4, CG 28.7, block 6.0. There we go. Landing weight 64.5. Yeah, that's about what we expected. 64. Yep, a bit of extra fuel. Finally, performance. Now these will be interesting numbers. Yeah, flex 46. So really nice numbers because of that strong headwind. So 0.3 with no shifts. Not that. We're going to get flaps 1 as always. Flex temp 46. V1 145. VR 145. V2 148. Yeah, pretty good. With that strong headwind, probably performance is not as limiting as it would be with 30 knots headwinds. Amazing. When you do performance, the systems that you use should be designed where you only use about half the headwind component, so it won't actually use all of that headwind, and the tailwind will be doubled. So it's trying to be conservative, as most conservative as it can be. Right, so that's it. All the way up to performance loaded up. Let's have a look at our ground equipment. Let's start moving them along. Looks like the bags are on. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, there's Mateo in the Iberia. Not that one. So I think we can pretty much drive them away. Hopefully all the bags are on by now. Fueling's definitely done. Passengers definitely on. Get rid of the stairs. Oh, there seems to be a slight bug in this software. There we go. So just left with the GPU. I must try and shrink this. I don't know if you guys have been successful in that. Am I missing something? I'm sure it's possible to make it smaller once. Anyway, let's get all the doors closed up so no one falls out. And as you guys know, 27 degrees here. Definitely time to get that APU up and running. Get some cooler air in for the passengers. Oh, there we go. Flight 24 already seeing Madeira go around videos. So that could be what we get coming up later. It's a windy day. Airbus TCA. Carter's pre-ordered them as well. Excellent. I hope you guys enjoy them. SCB says, can you talk about how we would use straight VOR nav on the Airbus? I'm used to old stuff where you would tune a VOR, turn it up, and know how to intercept. How would you do it on the Airbus? Okay, we'll have a quick look at it as we head on the way. It could be. One of the things that surprised me about the Airbus when I first started to fly is there's no way to make it track a VOR. if you want to fly a specific radial, you'll either tune it in and fly it in nav mode, or you'll do it in heading yourself, or even track mode. And you'll follow it using the VOR display on here, Rose VOR, and then you can change the course in the RadNav page in here. But a lot of aircraft will have a way to just fly down the VOR. So you just press VOR on here and it will just follow along, which is quite handy. But yeah, the Airbus doesn't bother, I suppose, because you've got nav mode and so on instead. What we can do, talking about that performance issue, we are very light, but let's just check. We've got these magenta stars here, which shows me that we're going to make these restrictions. If any of those were amber, it would mean that we were not going to make them, because we have these altitude restrictions we must make. Let's have a quick check of our SID as well. So we're not using that one anymore. That's the radar altitudes. That's the taxi outs. Yeah, so here we go, 1600, right, 3-2. No speed restrictions as such, just straight ahead. We'll do a normal acceleration and off we go. Excellent. And 4,000 feet, because it's quite a low stop altitude. We're going to need to get clearance or make sure we remember to climb higher. Because quite quickly we have to be above 4, we have to be 80 at Somob. So yeah, we have to be careful. So I might keep the speed back just to make sure I'm climbing, because there's no point accelerating 250 knots. A, we're pointing the wrong way as we head north initially, and B, we may not make these restrictions if we're going too fast. Okay, come on APU, there we go. Seatbelts are on. That's ready to go. So once that APU is up and running, we can get some air in for the passengers. And then I think we're pretty much ready to go. Let's have a look. Have we got any controllers yet? No. Good, that's fine. So we'll stay on Unicom 1228. Excellent. And the weather radar has come up a few times. I may talk about it on the way if we get time on one of these sectors. Excellent. Philos is asking, what about the trim? But have a look in here. Performance page, yeah, so you can put in THS, trimmable horizontal stabilizer figure into there, but I'm not going to. A lot of airlines don't. I can go to init B, and I can see the zero fuel at CG 28.7, and I can go to fuel prediction, and I'll see that my gross weight CG is currently 29.3. So that's just the CG I'll set on the trimmer here. But I won't bother using the performance page one. It's quite rare to use it really. It may provide a reminder on some other aeroplanes, but yeah, not a requirement by any means, depending obviously on how your airline does things. Okay, AP is available, AP bleed's going on, ground power's going off, and we will remove that GPU. And then getting into the final bits. Oh yeah, and of course I have to do it in the ToLiss menu as well. It'd be great if the ToLiss menu had some more animated services. That would be fun, but I appreciate they're probably busy with some other less trivial things. They don't expect everybody to be as obsessed with all these ground vehicles as me. Let's get rid of them so we can actually get out of it. Okay, so starting to be set up and ready to go. Let's think. Let's get better pushback up and running. Pre-plan. And just connect first.
Tau is driving up.
There we go. Excellent. Good afternoon, Mo. Thanks for coming along. Good to see you here. And Quandino Hani, thanks for coming as well. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. I know more regular viewers that have come along since the start, and now, as I was saying earlier, thank you all for joining us and getting us over the 1,000 subscriber mark. So yeah, great fun. Really nice to see. Okay, there's our pushback tug. And I don't know why that's running. That shouldn't be. We wouldn't bother with that yet. Clear that out. There we go. One of you would probably have terrain, definitely in a departure like this, and probably one of you would have weather. I don't think.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Ground crew connecting, and yeah, there's no CBs in the ATIS. I don't know if any were expected actually, but hopefully not. Certainly my radar in this ToLiss doesn't seem to pick anything like that up, so we shall see. Matteo, yes, the better pushback, one of my favorite things about the better pushback has got to be the way there's all the different voices for wherever you are in the world. I think that's just great fun, because it's such a big part of aviation, the fact that you'll sit down in your office and head off somewhere, and the people who are all around you, and you know, you'll leave wherever your home is, or your base, and you'll know everybody and where they live, and you'll know all the little towns and cafes and whatnot, then you'll have similar references. And then you'll arrive in another part of the world, and it will all be totally different, and they'll have all their own sort of local things, and it's great fun. It's great to be a part of that, and having the different ground crew is a really nice touch on the better Pushback. Yeah, absolutely brilliant, especially for freeware. I mean, it's amazing, really, really nice. So Carter's saying that V1 likes Pratt & Whitney. For me, it's the Leap, but I haven't got the Pratt & Whitneys, I must admit, but I do really like the Leap. I think they are amazing engines. One thing that Carter did say in a previous stream is if you start up these engines when the temperature's -10, it gives out some particle effects. And I did have a go at that earlier, Carter, and had it perform really nicely. It's fantastic because you've got all these blooms of hot air, I guess, condensing coming out the top, out of these vents and so on. I would do it on the stream. I really wanted to, but the frame rate, my computer just vanished through the floor, and I decided it would be too risky. It would probably upset either YouTube or the streaming software or something like that, so I can't do it. But yeah, if you've got this modification, certainly give it a go. Try out the starting the engines when the outside air temperature's below something like -10. Yeah, it's quite cool. Okay, right, that's enough chat. We're half past. We're meant to go around now. I think it's time we can go. So let's bring up our checklists and 4 starts. Checklist. Open. Good, so we called the tug, we've done the weather, the brief, we know what we're going to do if we have an engine failure. Looked at the SID, going to 4,000 feet. Transponder's just going to be set to 2,000, I suppose, until someone tells us otherwise. Set it to transponder now. Let's get that beacon up and running so the ground crew know we're ready to go. Contact ATC, which is what we're going to do. And I'm just going to transmit and then start the pushback. Excellent. And what I should be more careful of is we're going to push back to face south. And we're going to be Kestrel 221. Lanzarote ground, Kestrel 221, pushing back from stand Tango 6 to face south. Right. Oh, why won't it let me? What have I done? No. Is there any way to change it? I've never had that before.
Stand by.
Oh, I've made a mess of this. I have made a mess of this. I don't know where it's going to send us. I do apologise, everyone. How embarrassing. Matteo Chewy talking about the Italian accent. I can't remember. Right, reconnect. There we go.
Please, show me where you want to go.
Let's not make any more of a mess of this. Let's put it back here. Yeah, I can't remember how the voice was when we did our flight to Genoa. Has that worked? What am I doing wrong? It looks like it's worked. Okay, right, we've broadcast. We've done that. Let's release the parking brake. Nozzle steering is definitely disconnected, so they've got control.
Still connected and bypass being inserted. Release parking brake.
Oh, a bit early, but there we go.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Okay, let's get the timer running. The clock has started. Look at that. That's the smoothest start to a pushback we've had in better pushback for a long time. Put that to 2. And starting engine 2. Start the timer. Off we go. And I'll be quiet just so we can enjoy the sound effects of it spooling up. Excellent. I love the ignition sound you get in these leaps. Just as the fuel goes in, they spark up really quickly. You'll notice the temperatures are high as well. The limits are much higher. Now, I don't know if the core of the engine is actually hotter than in the older style engines, or whether it's just where they measure the EGT from. Maybe that's a bit different. So it could be either thing, really. But it does certainly, the limits in here are hotter than we're used to from the older engines. Right, that looks good. Get rid of that and start engine 1. There's that PTU running. jumping into the chat. Martin Scott, thanks for coming along. Good to see you here. And yeah, we're going to fly, for anyone who wasn't here at the start, plan is to fly one sector over to Gran Canaria, and then we'll head north to Funchal Madeira. But I've been talking for so long, we're running, what's that, 5 minutes late so far. There's the ignition and spool up. Sadly, these are the old CFM numbers. It's the performance of the CFM. So although that's a bit faster than the IAE engines, the Neos are really quick and they sit at higher temperatures than this. Yeah, you'll see that amber line is there because for the start that's the limit, and then once the engine's safely started, that can actually increase. That's just a limit for start. It gives a clue that there's a hot start. There we go, and now that jumps up, engine available. So let's go norm, which I think I've forgotten in previous videos. AP can go off. We're going to have the packs feeding the cabin because it's nice and hot out there, so we definitely want that. Strong headwind, so performance won't be an issue. And so done the SD page, did that's okay. So set that's at 0, flaps to 1, transponder's already there. CG, no doubt it's our classic.
Operation complete.
29.3. Yeah, we'll just have to wait for just a second while I set that. 29.3, somewhere there, as ever around 0. I must get that set somewhere different just to talk about it in another video. And now the ground crew can disconnect. Oh, he wants the brake set, doesn't he? Of course he does. Right, brake set, there we go.
Disconnecting tow, stand by.
Up they go, we've done that. So once we're taxiing, we'll get going on the flight controls and so on. Why are we moving? Shouldn't be moving. Brakes are set. What have I missed? And here we are, getting ready to go. I'm Dimitri, joining us from Canada. Thanks for coming along. Flats 40 as well, good to see you. Scott Reason, Pilot Felix, thank you guys. Thanks for all coming along. Carter Joel was saying, probably a question you've been asked, why do European airlines that use Airbus always start engine 2? Doesn't it then limit the use of single engine taxi as there is no hydraulic? Agreed. Carter, it's a great question. It comes up quite a surprising amount actually. Basically, if you're going to taxi, let me jump inside, I think it's a bit loud otherwise. If you're going to taxi on one engine, you're going to use engine number 1, which is what Carter's talking about, because it provides the right hydraulics to the aircraft. It means the nose wheel steering will work and so on. Now, it is possible to taxi on engine 2, but it's not normal and it takes a few extra steps.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. And signal on the right. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
There's our ground crew. So basically, in America, I imagine they have a lot of bigger airports, so maybe you'll always start single engine and then you'll start up the second engine whenever. In Europe, I mean, in little airports like this, if it's short enough and you're not expecting any delay, then you're just going to do both engines anyway. So if you know you're going to do both engines, you'll just start engine 2, then 1. There's the wave. Excellent. So that's my understanding of it. I'm guessing it's because American Airlines, I don't mean American Airlines itself, I mean any airline out in America, they typically have really big airports compared to what we see here. As we can see, we've just got this one little taxiway, so I'm not going to do single engine taxi today, so I'll just start engine 2, then 1, and taxiway normally. But yeah, I suppose if you were expecting to have the option, then maybe you'd always start 1. But if I knew I was going on 2 engines, I wouldn't start 1, then 2. Because if you do 2 first, it does provide the pressure to the brake system there earlier. I mean, it's probably, hopefully, not going to be relevant, but there you go. Right, so that's going to come as we taxi out, as you guys know, so I'll clear that. Oh, there, ground crew's gone. And we've done the after start bits. I think we'll just say we're going to taxi. Have I got the taxi chart? I should have had that ready as well. Sorry guys, parking stands, because it was quite a strange system here. I couldn't quite work it out. We had these numbers. Let's go, where's Tango 6? We'll go south, we're going to go left on Charlie and then join Romeo. Kestrel 221, taxiing south via Charlie and then Romeo for runway 03 departure. Okay, right, let's get those taxi lights on. The runway turn-offs and taxi lights can go on. And let's get underway. So brakes released. Pressure's gone down there. Oh, no, mustn't do that. Wrong button.
Following you, be careful on the brakes.
There we go. We've got the Iberia behind, so he doesn't want us standing on those brakes. I think we did that in a previous video. So let's get it spooled up a little bit. Get some energy in the airplane. You don't need to come to a stop doing the brake check. And in fact, you don't really want to, or people will get thrown forward. There we go. Quick squeeze. No pressures there. That's absolutely fine. So I can see Charlie over there, so I'm going to go left and make sure I turn right, not onto the runway. Oh dear, that's going to be a hard habit to get out of. Pressing the wrong button for the wrong view. So looking for a left. It's not very well signposted, I must say. I'm just using the default scenery. I think it's left up here. Yeah, these are stands. Captain Dachi, thanks for coming along. Oh, before I miss my turn. Sorry guys, if I miss anyone in the chat, I do apologise. I do try and get around to the questions, but this is quite a short, this first sector is quite short, the second one will be a bit longer, so hopefully I will get back to you, but I do apologise if I miss you saying hello or joining in. I do try and get to it, but yeah, it can get missed. Okay, right turn here, heading south. I must not press, basically I have the viewpoint assigned to the trigger button on my joystick, so I continuously press that to get to the Airbus ToLiss view. God, that's a bit fast. There we go. And as a result, because that's so ingrained in my memory, I always struggle when I have the first officer view selected. Okay, so we're rolling along here, and let's get those flight controls done. So yeah, a few of you will be having the new Thrustmaster side stick soon, so you'll be able to enjoy this in with a bit more realism than I will be. But there we go. It's yeah, the new joystick looks great. I particularly, as I said before, like the red disconnect button. So full left, full right, neutral, full down, full up, neutral, and we're going to press pedal disconnect, and now we can run the rudders without sliding everywhere. Full right, full left, neutral. Good. So as we can see, we're starting to run away a little bit. Weather radar, that can go multi-scan to auto, ground clutter suppression to auto, set the weather and turbulence on, have radar number 1 on, predicted wind shear to auto, transponder to TARA, maximum auto brake, takeoff config. Just tell the camera crew we're getting ready to get going. Excellent. And here we go. I'm going to go for a full length departure given that terrain up there. I don't think it'll be wise to do an intersection. Who else have we got joining in here? Thomas Mortimer says, yeah, we do number 2 to pressurized yellow system, which does the parking brake. Yeah, that's it. That's why traditionally that's done first, assuming you know you're going on 2 engines. So that makes sense. Scott Reason. I'm not sure if I recognise Scott Reason, but thanks for coming along. 380 pilot's the best plane to fly. Very good. Oh, excuse me. Struggling with these. I must get these rudders a bit less sensitive. Carter, no, my pleasure. That's why we're here. Study Level Stream says that the US, they do 1 first, even if going out 2. There you go. I don't have an answer for why. I just know that's not what I've seen. So that, like I say, I don't think in reality it's likely to make much difference either way. Maybe it's for, you know, there could be something to be said for doing it always in the same order, just for routineness, to make sure you're set up. So that may be the reason. I don't know though. But yeah, thanks for coming along. Study Level Streams. I'm not sure a new name I haven't seen before, so that's good. As I said, yeah, Captain Dutchy, thanks for coming. Okay, here's the stop. Oh, they got a nice stop bar here, nice and clear, big red stop. So let's slow it down. Let's get ourselves around. I'm going to just slightly oversteer, see if I can roughly align the nose before we get to that stop bar. Just a Cat 1 stop. No, we're not going to manage that, so let's get it. As we've seen before, it's amazing how close you can actually be. Is that probably... Are we over the line? Hopefully not. Yeah, look, well back. So it's quite surprising, really. How's Matteo doing behind us? There we go. In the Iberia. And I've actually got an Iberia livery showing, which is really nice. I'm not sure what's showing up on the Matteo screen. Thomas Mortimer, for an intersection takeoff, is it the pilot or ATC who decide, or both? Yeah, both. It could be, it helps, it could get you ahead of heavier aircraft. It could be that you want it for a shorter taxi. If you're not ready, you might say, no, I need to go full length, or you may have performance reasons that you can't take an intersection. So it's a combination of the both, absolutely. Right, let's see. What have I missed? What have I missed? So we've done all of that. We've done the cabin. Getting up to 4,000 feet. If we have any problems, we're going to make that right turn any time on this initial leg before we make our left turn. Engines are warm. We've got the right speeds in. Climb nav 152. 4,000 is where we're stopping on that QNH of 1018, which is showing 80 feet, which seems about sensible for Lanzarote. Oh, let's put that back there. And we've got our flap one, we've got our 6 tons of fuel. Let's have, typically pilot flying will have performance page, pilot monitoring will have the flight plan page for the takeoff. Right, let's get underway. Kestrel 221 to Lanzarote traffic, taking off runway 03 for a left turn, eventually south to Lorpo. Clear on the approach, let's get all of these lights on. TCAS is already on TAR8, excellent. Going to go packs on for the takeoff. Brakes released. That's all done. And that's all done. Great. No, not that button. There we go. Okay, guys. So this is a short flight, half an hour. So I'm not sure. I'm going to have very little time even to get set up for the arrival. So yeah. There's our RAS. As you see, it tells us after we cross the stop bar, but it does tell us, to be fair, before we actually enter the runway. So it's still got its use, definitely. Then we go for a rolling takeoff. Strong headwinds.
On runway 03.
Okay, let's start the chrono. Oh, bit of an oversteer there. Let's get ourselves a bit closer. Half side stick down. 50% on the N1s. Get those Neos roaring. Off we go. Man, Flex 46, SRS. Runway, auto thrust is armed. Through 8,200 knots, neutralizing the stick. And there's V1 and rotates. Lift the nose, centralize the rudder, let it weathercock. Positive climb, gear can come up. Nav modes, and expecting a bit of an early right turn here as we head around that terrain. There it goes. Yeah, good performance today. Nice and light. Flat one takeoff into that. What have we got? 30 knots of headwind already. Yeah, excellent. So we're gently heading right now. Through acceleration. Thrust climb, climb, auto thrust. So that's looking good. Made our right turn. And done the packs, that's fine. Wants us to go left now. Being very sensitive, I think I've said before, you have to sort of be a little bit careful. The flight directors can be overly sensitive initially after takeoff. I find the ToLiss ones are slightly more sensitive than I'd expect in the real aeroplane, ever so slightly. Oh, a nice day now. They're getting some sun around the island. Okay, we're getting to level off. Let's get in that autopilot. We're through 1,000 feet to go. Gonna watch this level off, get the flaps up, and then we'll get ourselves our further climb. So there's the S speed. Flaps to 0. I'm just going to watch it level off. Normally you'd have 2 people, obviously, so you can do this all at once. Let's speed out star. Go to those. Go to those. Now we're getting nicely away from those hills. We're already above 3,200 feet, so we're pretty much safe. But until we're above, well, we're above 3.5, so we know we're above the MSA. So I don't really need to make that right turn if we have any trouble. And there we go. A nice view over the island as we head out. Let's get a quick outside shot. There we go. Lovely. Not bad default scenery, really. It seems like the right sort of colour for the Canary Islands. That sort of they're slightly deserty, I guess. Yeah, maybe they'd have slightly darker sand because they are volcanic. But there we go. Excellent. Right, so yeah, a bit of sightseeing. I don't see the point. We don't need to climb up too quickly. We're done with that chart. What chart was this? That was our arrival, wasn't it, into GCLP. So let's get back to, don't need that one either. And here we go. Yeah, we went really wide there, so you can see some disadvantages to being too fast. Plus, I think we got a crosswind from the left, blowing us wide of track. But luckily, the terrain isn't on this side. Yeah, we're a whole 0.4 miles right of the track. Yeah, quite surprising actually. Wouldn't really expect the plane to deviate that much. And you can see it's not going to make that turn very well. It wants to go via the LZR VOR. Oh, there we go. It's improved slightly. So let's get that. Let's get climbing. Let's go up to flight level 90. So we've got thrust climb, open climb. I'm going to set standard. And I'm going to pull the speed back. In fact, let's get a higher climb. Let's go all the way up. We're going up to 250. Let's go to 25. And that way I get the speed back now. We'll get a real zoom climb here. And that way we'll get around this turn a bit easier. It will easily make the terrain restrictions, obviously. Oh, not there. And here we go. Off we go. Excellent. Captain Dutchy says, is this approach completely visual or do you just follow the flight director onto the runway? Which approach are you talking about? Is that into Madeira? First, I should be clear, I hope I haven't misled anyone. We are planning on going to Gran Canaria first and then up to Funchal. So a slightly longer stream today. It's only a short flight, this first one. It's just a warm up really. Had a few days off from streaming before we head there. Talking about single engine taxi again, a few guys. Yeah, so study level streams is talking about it as well. Unless we're single engine taxiing, yeah, exactly. You use a yellow electric pump if you're single engine taxiing to power the hydraulic system on the other side. The PTU will do it, but it obviously runs and it's not really designed for constant use. It's really there as a backup, but the yellow electric pump can be used all the time. It's used quite often. Tango Delta, I agree. I really like the sound effects on these engines. I don't know if the bot is working yet. If you type in !LEAP, it should guide you. But it may not be working yet. And here we go, roaring away in our Air Tours Neo 321. Brilliant. Carter Joel says, could you recharge the yellow pump, using the yellow pump to recharge the park pressure? Yeah, that does work. You've got to be careful doing that on the ground because if you use the yellow electric pump in the flight deck, it will power up most of the hydraulics of the aircraft. So you don't want to do that with any engineers or people near flight controls that might move. It's very dangerous. The hydraulics are something on the ground that you'd be very careful fiddling with. You don't want them to power up unless the airplane is clear. Because if somebody's fiddling with, say, an APU and then the elevators come to life because they're pressurized, they're really powerful things, really powerful. So yeah, a lot of care goes into any fiddling with hydraulics on the airplane. And it's amazing that just one button on the flight deck would power them. Yeah. Thomas Mortimer coming in with yeah, really high level knowledge there. Newer A320s have a nose wheel steering that comes off the yellow system instead of green. Yeah, that is true. So there are some differences as to whether that would need to be done or not. I agree, DG. I love the sound on these leaps. Thanks, Liz, for trying. I don't know what's going on. I really apologize about the bot, guys. I'm really not sure. Okay, we must be through 10,000 feet or our checklist wouldn't have appeared. So instead of nattering, let's go. Manage speeds. We can definitely start accelerating now. We've made all those restrictions. Get those lights retracted before we accelerate and make too much noise. Got standards, and we didn't use any red navs. Secondary now, we don't need that procedure, so we're going to copy the active. And we're going up to 250, which is our cruise level. Absolutely fine. Great stuff. And I guess is the nose below 10 degrees? Yeah, it's sitting about 5 degrees as we accelerate, so we can let the passengers, for their short flight, walk around. I'm sure there'll be some passengers desperate for the loo and all sorts of things anyway. Right, very short flight now. As you can see, we're going to level off just before COSIB and then start down shortly after from 250. So we've easily made all our restrictions here. So let's get rid of that. Right, GCLP. Now, I must admit, I'm a little bit underprepared for this part of the stream. I was looking at Funchal. So I apologise now, so do tell me if I missed something. But we're going via Lorpo, and I've done the Lorpo 1 kilo. 5,000 feet. It's got little note 1 and note 2. What's it saying there? In fact, let's bring up the full tablet. Tab. Right, BR nav equipment required. Absolutely. Radar surveillance will be provided after Lorpo. Good stuff. So you could be coming off an oceanic route to head down to the Canary Islands. That would be why you may not yet have radar coverage. So yeah, makes sense. And there we go into L'Alto, where we'll hold. After L'Alto, we're expecting the ILS onto 03 after I was so confident in what I thought would happen. Yeah, runway 003. Now this is... Oh, looking at the wrong one. Let's get rid of there we go, Gran Canaria, right. As you can tell, sorting out charts is a constant thing, constant work in progress in the real airplanes. So there's TACANs to 03 rights, VORs to the left. Seems like they really are keen on using the left, so that's absolutely fine. Maybe it's on the other end that you'd consider swapping, I'm not sure. And there we go. So let's, well, nearly at our level off. Let's get up there, level off, and then we'll have a quick look through the charts. Looks like the go around is the big thing because you've got this terrain off to the left. Otherwise, it's pretty standard RLS. 3 degrees. Yeah, good stuff. Right. Look at that speed, climbing 335 knots. Excellent. NS Air, thanks. Yep, we reached 1,000 not long ago. So thank you to all of you who've been a part of that. It's really great. So anyone who's ever come along and liked to watch the video, thank you, because it's made a huge difference. And here we are. I can't believe it. Thousands. And Mo saying Airbus have recently received certification for a new digital audio cockpit system, same as the A350, A380 will come standard. There you go. Yeah, they're always updating. There's amazing the stuff that gets added to these aircraft over the years. There's all sorts of systems, so I imagine it will be an option, something that people will pay for on the new ones. Adrian Burke, thanks for coming along. Yeah, a warm flight today, absolutely. We still aren't ready to leave our little holiday heading down in the Canaries. So which island is this? This should be... is this Fuerteventura? Let's have a look. Maps. I think it is. Oh no, what's going on here? I've never seen that before. It doesn't seem to be working. Oh, there it goes. Maybe I'm zoomed in too much. So yeah, that should be Fuerteventura. Then we're going to Gran Canaria there. So there it is. And have you been on holiday there? Seems like quite a big island, Fuerteventura. A bit bigger than Lanzarote. Tenerife is pretty massive over there. 20,000 feet still, looking good up to our 250. I really must get ready. Oh, airports. There we go. Theo Lodge. Sorry if I've said that wrong every time I've said it, but thanks for coming along. So hello, thanks for joining us today. Joe Stone says, hello, what is the meaning of the star in FMA announcements? So the star is capture. So lock star means it's captured the localizer, but it's not yet established. And there's just differences in the background as to how the Airbus coding is set up to deal with that. So outstar is a capture mode where it flies sort of this arc onto the level. So it's different from actual out mode. So it's the capture. Yeah. So there's only a few of those. The glide slope star, lock star, out star, that will all be capture modes. Mateo saying we have more likes than people watching. There you go. Yeah, that's great. Thank you to everyone who's liked the video. It's always nice if that happens. Ian Dimitri says, are you planning to do the circle to land runway 05? Yeah, so with the wind as it is, it looks like we're going to have to land on 05. So I'm going to do, there's either the circle to land or the RNP. Now, there's the circle to land is fine. The RNP is essentially the same thing, but it will fly in nav mode. Otherwise, we can code in our own waypoints and sort of fly like a circle around the corner. So I'll probably do the RNP, which will circle us around. There's loads of approaches though. We'll talk about that as we head north. But essentially, they all bring you out around that spectacular tight turn to point on the final, because you can't come straight in onto that runway because of the terrain around it. On a windy day like this, which is something else we'll talk about, I'm not even sure if the limitations would allow it. It could be too windy. There's 1,000 feet for us to go, so yeah, 800 feet per minute, but there's no one above us. We've just got Mateo behind us at 300 feet below. There you go. TCAS working well today. DG27, can you dump fuel in the ToLiss? Is it simulated? There's no fuel dumping on short-haul Airbus. We don't have that ability. There's outstar, so now it's capturing, and then it goes into outcruise. We can set the transponder to below, nice and carefully. Yeah, we don't fuel dump on the short-haul aircrafts. The idea, I suppose, being is it's rare. You can land a bit overweight if you have to, and you know there's different procedures and checklists for that. Hopefully you won't have to, but the aircraft doesn't have an ability to dump fuel. And we would scan the systems pages. I can get rid of that. There we go. So, oh, looking pretty reasonable. I won't dawdle too long on these. As long as we haven't got any ECAMs, it's a good sign that there's nothing. Fuel's balanced and checked. 1500 on top of that adds up to 6. So we haven't got a leak. Cabin's a good temperature. Great. Okay, right, let's get that just out of the way for now. Let's get set up for Gran Canaria. So, first thing first, flight plan. Well, we've done the flight plan. Let's slow down. Mateo's leveled off behind us. Mateo, I'm about to slow down to 250 knots because we're just storming in here and we don't need to be. Let's see. Let's get ourselves plan, zoom in. Okay. So as we said, from Lorpo, Lalto, via Lalto for the ILS 03, Lalto, DME arc. So all of this can be flown in nav round, and then intercept 13.8. 13.8, I want to be after 13.8, I can descend down to 2.5, then intercept the ILS at 7.5 and straight in. So flight plan looks reasonable. Go around looks really important here. Straight aheads, what is the description? So 026 to 1,000 feet, then make a right turn, no faster than 210, but not before 8 LPC on 120 to intercept 060 LPC. Climb to 2.5, then as directed. So 2.5 for the stop altitude, but a right turn, then that left turn away until we're told otherwise. Great. Radnav, India, well, that's going to change. I always complain about this. It should change as we get closer in. The ToLiss does it a little bit later than I expect. But yeah, that would automatically be tuned by the Airbus, and it will be later. Progress GCLB03, left we're landing on. There we go. Otherwise, GPS primary accuracy high, where we're doing a radio navigate approach with the ILS. So even if this went worse, we could still take headings onto the ILS. Performance then, let's get that loaded in. QNH 1018, pretty similar. 020 at 30. Wow, yeah, that is a windy day. My goodness, 26 degrees, so the flaps we can retract like normal after landing. Let's get the minima for that approach. Going to do a normal ILS. The weather's fine. It's a CDFA. Straight in landing 03 left, yeah, 730. Sidestep, there you go, so there's a sidestep to 3 right, but I'm not sure why you would do that. I'm slightly confused. 730. In it goes. Flat fall landing. Yeah, so this is interesting. People will often ask, how do you decide? Well, what's the runway length in Gran Canaria? 3,100 meters, and they both look the same. So it's a long runway, strong headwinds. Let's do a config 3. So I'll select config 3 in there. Landing flap 3 up there, and we're going to have it there. That increases our VAP to 145. If you're expecting wind shear on approach, you probably don't want to make the approach anyway. But if you are, flap 3 will give you more energy. The idea is that you'll have a bit more energy in the airplane to fight through a wind shear if you need to do an escape sort of wind shear maneuver. But the engines will be running at a lower RPM, so that, you know, it's a bit of a balancing act. But the recommendation is, if you're in pure wind shear conditions, you should be flap 3. Because there's just less drag on the airplane, so it does give the ability for the airplane to climb a bit better. When you do a wind shear maneuver, you're not going to change the configuration of the airplane until you're out of the wind shear, so you're stuck at whatever you're at. So if you have your wind shear flap 3, you've got less drag out compared to a flap 4. So there's differences in it. Right, time to start down already. We know we're safe over the water. Let's start down to 100. Let's do it in DES. We do managed. Oh, no. That's interesting. Spooled up. when it's saying thrust idle. How odd. Should not be doing that. It's trying to accelerate to this speed. What we can do is we can just go pull, open descent, and now it will come to thrust idle. And down we go. From here, Alto, and then yeah, we're basically already onto that arc. So a couple more things about the ILS. Obviously, terrain's off to the left. It gives us a high MSA of 8.5, but even 4,000 feet out here. So quite a severe MSA. Maximum 210 knots. Entering the holding pattern is restricted. So we need to be 210 knots. Where's that little note? 2. Not sure. Where have I missed that? Anyway, it would make sense to have the speed back as you leave the hold, certainly, and fly around this arc. Otherwise, as we've seen, the airplane may go wide. Oh, there you go. Matteo saying it's 29, gusting 39 on arrival. That is pretty severe. So yeah, we'll stick with that 3 and we'll see how it goes. I know X-plane can be quite abrupt with its simulation of turbulence. So from Lalto, we're going to head out and head round that arc. Excellent. Okay, so that's set up. We're looking good on the fuel, landing with 4.3. We're below max landing rate at 64.7. Let's give it that page. And down we go. Okay, now let's try Des. Hopefully speed Des there, a bit more reasonable. And we'll let the airplane do its plan. Does it have the winds? The wind's probably making a big difference today, although it's only 12 knots here. Let's see. No, it doesn't seem to load in. There's 20,000 feet. Now, I often comment about these crazy descent speeds. Yeah, it seems silly to be descending this fast. But there we go. Okay. Evening, Ian Morris. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you here. UA901. Apologies. Yeah, the bot does not seem to be working, so I'm sorry about that. I'll try and add a few more things into the description. Matteo can't see me on the radar. Yeah, the TCAS does seem a little bit sensitive in the ToLiss. It would normally show something. Scott Reason flies for that. Kelvin C. Francis, what's your favourite aircraft in the 320 family? Either the 20 or the 21, I'd say. I like them both. The 21 is it handles stronger winds a bit better because it's heavier, and heavier airplanes are always usually are a bit better in stronger winds. They've got more momentum through the air, and the 320 is just a nice balance between the 19 and the 21, so it's quite simple, easy to maneuver in a crosswind, that sort of thing, but also it's got a bit of weight to it, so I do like that. The 319 has very big wings for its size, so it can be blown about, I think, a little bit easier. Also, heavier airplanes like the 321 tend to ride turbulence a bit better, so if you're sat in the cruise and there's turbulence, typically if it's a bigger, heavier airplane, it's less affected by it, so you get more of a jostle, a bit of a bounce up and down, but it's not quite as firm as it is in a lighter, smaller airplane. So that would just be my personal opinion on that. Yeah, 20 and 21. Carter Joel says, have you ever looked into getting XP Realistic add-on? I have not, actually. No, I don't know what that is, so do fill me in. I'm not sure. DG27, what's the limits? Well, that's going to depend, but our wind today, let's have a look what we're running with. 30 knots. So 38 knots on a dry runway, typical crosswind limit. But that depends. It depends on the condition of the runway. Airlines might have different limits for captains and first officers, or sometimes they'll put a limit on an airport. So in somewhere like this, where we've got this high terrain, if you have 38 knots from the west coming over those hills, my goodness, that will be turbulent, and I wouldn't be surprised if airlines would not like you trying that. Let's just check what we have missed. 210 knots at D12 ILP. So that point, is that point? Oh no, down here. Yeah, D12 in there. We need to be 210. That's fine. Hopefully that will tune soon. BYDME required. We've got, and there's our lost comms procedure if we need it. Let's have a look after landing. So we're going to land on the left, map 3. Hopefully all goes well. Either Sierra 2 or Sierra 3, and then we'll go and park up on that terminal over there. Airports. Wow, airport. There we go. Loads of charts. Oh no, I've already got that one. What am I doing? Parking stands. Excellent. Oh wow, yeah, big big airport, Gran Canaria. Yeah, we're left and then we'll find one of these stands to go to. Excellent stuff. So we want to be at our hold. We're heading into L'Alto around 5,000 feet. So let's load in 5,000s. Set the QNH of 1018, which is what it was when we left. And we'll put the LS buttons on. This is where, I mean, this is where we're just storming in so fast. My goodness. Let's, yeah, now it slows down to 250. I don't want to be flying around that arc that fast. Let's get the speed brakes out. And as you guys know, I'm terrible for forgetting that. Flap 3 will use low auto brake. With that strong headwind, it should help us slow down. Obviously, we'd do some sort of landing performance assessment to make sure we know we fit. But yeah, the flap 3 with a low, because we're going to have a higher nose, so we don't want to have that nose come down too fast when medium auto brake kicks in. It was discussed somewhere, why can't I use maximum auto brake? Yeah, we don't use that for landing. It's just for rejected takeoffs. It's quite neat how they've done it with a separate little panel, so you don't get confused and accidentally try and use it. But yeah, that's all that's for. It'd just be too aggressive. I'm not even sure if, I know the ToLiss doesn't let you arm it, but I'm not sure what the real airplane would do. That's a question I don't know. Right, let's get those speed brakes in. Don't need to arm them just yet. Get those passengers sat down for the landing. Could be a bumpy one. And down we go. India Lima Papa 1099. Now that sounds a bit better. 199 India Lima Papa. It's an ILS DME, and it looks like it's going to read, yep, 0 at the threshold, so that's good. So we're as close as we expect to be, and it's 0.02 shallower than normal. We're doing our straight-in landing. RVR's 1500, excellent. Pappies on both sides of the runway, high intensity approach lighting system, all looking good. So it's quite a well-equipped airport, really. Although obviously only to Cat 1 on this chart anyway. So what I don't want to do is come around this arc too fast and then be pointing at these hills at 210 knots or something. So well, maybe 210 would be fine, but yeah, we'll make sure the speed's under control. Profile-wise, we can actually see what the box is planning. CF, so it's going to be 38 at CF 03L, somewhere out there. Which is fine, but as I've said before, this is probably a little bit optimistic. We might try and do things a little bit faster, sorry, a little bit slower, a little bit more conservative. Ian Morris, thank you very much. Yeah, 1,000 subs, I can't believe it. So thank you all to all of you who have joined in. It's brilliant. Mo, LPMA is okay for Madeira. Where's GCLP? Sorry, Mo. We're going to Gran Canaria. Yeah, I should have been more clear. It was going to be clear if the chatbot had come to life, but we're starting off with a short flight to Gran Canaria, pick up some passengers, and then head north to Madeira. I do apologise. Carter saying it's head movements. That's XP realistic. Head movements, wind sound, turbulence effects. Oh, very good. Yeah, I've tried one head movement add-on, but it didn't quite work with me. Although I didn't spend long enough setting it up. I found it. I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced. I know there's some add-ons which if people like them, that's great. Because obviously it's all flight simulator, so it's all as we want it to be really. But when the airplane's banking and the camera stays level on the horizon, I find that a little bit unusual because I don't fly the airplane like that. So if I'm banking in the airplane, I'm sitting like this, and I'll keep my head level with the airplane. But I do know there's some that sort of did that, and I didn't quite like that, so I turned it off. But I should try again because they do have some nice effects, especially the turbulence and the shaking. Because you can be in turbulence that really does shake you about and makes it a little bit harder to see the screen. Right, get those landing lights on as well. Oh, all the way. There we go. And our next restriction is 3,800 feet. 3,800 feet. Let's carry on down. Expecting the radio altimeter to become alive at the normal point, straight over the water really. We're too fast. This is silly. Let's pull that speed. Let's come back. We can do 210 knots clean even. So do a bit of that, a bit of that. Get it slowing down. Oh, there you go. Thomas Mortimer says that once you've touched down, you can select max auto brake. There you go. So yeah, I don't know what the real airplane would do with that because it's just not something you'd ever want to risk. Solly, thanks for coming along. Should I get the ToLiss at 319 or 321? Yeah, great question. Tricky. I don't have the 319, so someone else who has both will probably be able to tell you which is the more suitable thing for you. Right, there we go, 220 knots around here. It may accelerate a bit now because it's following this vertical profile, but at least we've got the energy back out of it for now. Ah, Carter's saying XP Realistic lets you fiddle with the settings. Yeah, very good. Oh, that sounds like a good idea, but I haven't yet seen it. Okay, and the approach checklist. Good. So that's getting ready for landing. We'll get rid of that now. Coming around the arc. There's the island. I hope all our passengers are getting very excited about arriving into Gran Canaria. Ah, there you go. I almost said Madeira. I was getting ahead of myself. This water's, I think, using the script, but it may be. I do have the Lua script active for the water, which looks really nice today. But I suspect the X-plane wave height is up because of the wind, which gives it that really nice effect. And I've got reflections just one step off low, because without any other scenery around, it's helped us get a frame rate that seems to be compatible with it. Pavel, excellent. Glad you're ready to get into Gran Canaria. Just be a short break when we get on the ground, and then we'll head off. Right, let's see what we're doing. So it's 4.6. There's the ILS glide slope just above us. How far away am I from the threshold? 15 miles. Right, let's get that approach raise activated. Slow down. See, this is what I mean. If you leave the Airbus too much without monitoring it, you could find yourself a bit embarrassed. We can go to flap 1. Start slowing things down. That's 3.8, which is fine. So it had a level segment coded in. That's pretty good. Coming around the turn. See if we can get a better view from the FO seats. I normally don't do this because of the Avi tabs on the left as well. Where's the airport? There it is. Is that it? That's not quite it. There it is over there. Excellent. So now flap 2. Let's get train on this side. Let's get flap 2 out. And let's do 160 knots for now, so we don't get too slow on them, otherwise Mateo's behind us. Gran Canaria traffic, Kestrel 221, joining the ILS, runway 03 left, 10 miles. Sorry, at 14 miles. And here we are, come around on to final. So let's arm the approach, second order pilots. There's lock star, we mentioned that's our capture mode. Oh yeah, that's no good, is it? Let's put that there. And round we come. Probably had a bit more room there. And when you're on final with 25 knots headwind, actually, I should have really considered that. That definitely gives you more room in terms of speed, because that just slows you down. So our ground speed's already only 150 knots. But there we go, not too bad. Shortly joining that glide slope and heading down 2,500 feet for that current altitude. Let's put that in for the single engine. No, 2,500 goes in there. And I must remember flap 3 landing, so just one more stage of flap to come. There's our glide slope star. That's set in that current altitude, 2,500 feet. And here we go. There's glide slope. 11 miles out, 3 degree approach, so we can configure a bit later on really. Flap 2 160 from here. Yeah, probably won't be much above idle thrust. A quick cheeky view out the window. There we go. That beautiful Neo engine glistening in the as the sun sets. Yes, so everyone's talking about the sale. There is a sale going on, isn't there, in on the X-Plane Org store. I didn't know. Is the 757 available in that sale? Is Mateo saying he bought the 767? Is that the VMAX one? DG27, the aircraft moving on the chart is yeah, it's just standard in Avitab. It seems to work. Avitab and X-Plane, I haven't done anything really. It just sort of just happens like that. It only works on certain charts. It doesn't work on some random, like the parking chart. It doesn't work, but the airport chart it does. So here we go now. All this terrain off to our left. Luckily, not too bumpy. I would imagine there could be a bit of a breeze here, a bit of a bump with that wind coming from the left. Lined up on the left-hand runway, 2 rights, 2 reds. Looking good. So now on the glide slope, got our going altitude in. Expecting the radio altimeter to become alive any second now. Which would make sense really. Let's hope it does. There we go, 2,500 feet, which makes sense. Slightly later than 7.5 miles because it was ever so slightly shallower. But that means that we're all pretty much tied up as we expect it to be. What have I missed? Let's think. Looking good. I do like the shadows in X-Plane over the flight deck. Really nice. Good stuff. And there's Matteo on approach behind us. Let's see if we can see him. There he is. Oh, in the Iberia. Right, let's configure. Gear can come down, flaps can go to 3. Arm those. And most importantly, manage that speed. It's interesting, your approach speed is higher flap 3, so you don't need to worry so much, it takes less time to get there, although it should, except there's less drag. So it's not always that simple. It's one of those balancing acts because flap forward slows you down quite quickly. Here we go. Ground speed mini taking a slight effect here, adding a few knots on, as you would expect really. And on final approach, we'll make a call out. Kestrel 221, final approach to land, runway 03 left at Gran Canaria, 4 miles. Sorry guys, I know there's a few questions. I'll try and get through a few once I get on the ground. Otherwise, do feel free to ask them again at any time or on the next sector. Good, so here we go. Just bring that one up. So let's take out the autopilot. We're all set up. Memo's done. We're in speed mode. In a good place. So flat 3 landing, 7.5 degree limit on the pitch. We're stable at 1,000 feet. And yeah, let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. Nice and visual for the whole approach. Yeah, quite good scenery here. I know these power lines are quite impressive. I'm not sure if they're that big in real life. If you were to go to Lanzarote. What have we got? We've got 30 knots, ever so slightly from the left. Not too bad. It's pretty reasonable. I do apologise if you hear a creaking. It's the the joystick I use does seem to creak a lot. Not sure why really. It's not that old.
Approaching 03 left.
Excellent. That's the one we wanted. So not really a lot to do. Even in this wind, the Airbus is, you know, as we always say, it's pretty stable. It's trimmed out. Ground speed is 120, so only 600 feet per minute will keep us on 3 degrees this time. So slightly shallower vertical speed than normal needed. Speed seems, I don't know about this speed. I'd expect the nose to be a tiny bit higher for flat 3, but there we go. Hopefully the runway's pretty flat. I know it's tilting in Funchal, which we'll go and see in a minute. Looks like there's only one set of touchdown zone markers, so we'll just do our best. Doesn't look like it's tilting to the right. It's going to show up as a bit of a hammer, I imagine, on the feet per minute we use. And there we go, rolling out. Does it like it's sloping ever so slightly to the right. We've got reverse green, we've got decel low, and with that strong headwind, ground speed's already at 70 knots. We'll take the next exit. Let's brakes release. Don't want to stand on the brakes and ruin everybody's day. And then we'll bring ourselves left onto the terminal. Although I hope Matteo isn't too close behind. I do apologise. if he is, otherwise he'll be going around. Oh dear, yeah, he is a bit closer than I thought. I'm going to get moving. Sorry, Matteo. Taking quite a lot of energy to get the plane moving. Come on, come on. It's getting stuck on the hill. Oh dear. Wow, I've never seen it need... Oh, still got reverse going. That's why. That would make sense. Right, now we get ourselves moving. How embarrassing. Yeah, look at that. Still got over 50 knots airspeed. Now, if he thinks he can land safely behind us, then that'll be up to the traffic behind. We'll get ourselves just past this line. Runway vacated for Kestrel 221. Now, you'd normally say that as you cross the line, but there isn't a line drawn there, so that should cover us. Okay. Right, let's get ourselves into the terminal. So we're going to take the first left here. Get rid of these lights. All the way around. Oh, it's already vacated behind. Obviously didn't matter. Should have just done that exit really, that would have made life a lot easier. And here we are. Huge apron here. I really don't know how they would divide up the parking. I'm going to go and see if we can spot a stand worth going to. I think we'll just take a right here and park up. Right, so let's bring it to a stop because I can't do all this myself. Get the APU up and running. APU starting. And get the flaps in from 3. We'll get rid of the flap 3 position. Probably not going to do that into Funchal. Disarm those. Transponder back to transponder. And looking good. Get that actually starting. LS buttons can go off. Right. Let's go and take a jet bridge. Let's do that. So brakes released. Off we go. Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us for this first sector, guys. And like I say, we're going to park up, take a very short break, and then load up for our flight up to Funchal. Where are we? Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think we can just, let's head across the apron here. Parking on that stand there. Some airports have surprisingly clear aprons that do allow this sort of thing. I don't know how this compares for local procedures. APU is available, looking good. Get those brake fans on, short turnarounds. Although they're probably pretty, I'd expect them to be quite cool. You know, we landed 64 tons, very light, strong headwinds, barely needed them in the end. Gross and Moon, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. You joined just in time for the the 370 feet per minute landing. I've talked about it before. I mean, that wasn't, I don't know what feet per minute in real life that would be, but the overlay I use is not, once it gave us a positive landing rate, so I'm not entirely sure where it gets its information from. Here we go then, arriving onto stand. Let's get rid of the nose and taxi lights so they don't blind the ground crew. Get ourselves on the centre line. And what looks reasonable. And there's Matteo who's joined us. Probably had better luck with the landing than we did. Nope, we're not doing that one. Just get our front door somewhere reasonable. It's taken an amazing amount of power to get the airplane moving. It's quite uphill, I suppose. Yeah. Okay, parking brake is set. Definitely. Check the pressures are actually holding it there. Check that we have got an APU. It's very embarrassing to turn off the engines when you don't. They can go off now. Get the clunks. Luckily the APU generator's there for us. Seatbelt signs off. Let those engines spool down a bit. You don't want to turn the beacon off until they're slow enough so there's no sort of jet wash. And there we go. Get some air on for those passengers. Right, thank you very much for joining us this far, guys. So here we are. And what we're going to do is we will now take a very quick break, and then we're going to load up and head ourselves up to Funchal as promised. So I do apologise to those of you expecting to go straight away there. That was that was going to be clearer if I managed to get the bot to work properly. There we go. So Let's see, let's get ourselves some ground crew. I do enjoy the ground crew. Drive up, let's have everything. Why wouldn't we? And put it outside. And while that's all appearing, I'm going to say to you guys, thank you very much. Take a very short break and I'll be back very soon. Thank you. Hello everybody. Thank you for your patience and welcome back. For those of you who just joined us, we're going to take our ToLiss A321, which we've just arrived into Gran Canaria with, and we're going to head north up to Funchal and land on runway 05 there on these windy condition days. As always, this is not for any real world use, it's just our usual X-Plane fun, so just for our home flight simulator enjoyment. So here we go, all our lovely ground vehicles. I don't know if I opened the doors or not, but we won't waste too much time on that as I've had my fun with that earlier. So we're getting to drive away. Let's jump into the flight deck now and get our new flight plan ready, which is not this one. And we're going GCLP. Why have I got two? Obviously made two. That's not very good. Right. So a bit heavier now. We picked up some more passengers, so let's get the weights loaded in first before I totally forget to do that. We'll leave it on the APU. Not unreasonable a day like this to need the APU for the whole turnaround unless you had extra air being given to you from the outside. So performance. Let's have a look. So fuel weight 70.3. More passengers jumped on, and they probably had some bags and some more bags. Maybe squeeze a couple more. There we go, 181 passengers. Excellent. Fuel wise, we need 8.5. That gives us an alternate. It's Tenerife South, so it's a long way back to the alternate. It's another hour flight time back. So that gives us a really high fuel of 8.5. What takeoff weight and landing weight have we got? Landing at 75.4. So we've got about 2 tons spare, but that's still pretty heavy. So we don't want to take too much extra. We've got 15 minutes there, so let's give ourselves enough for another go there, and then a return to Tenerife. So 8.5, then we'll put it up to 9.2, and then we can wait around a bit if we need to. Excellent. So that's the weights loaded, the fuel's arrived, fuel is on. And let's get ourselves set up. Hopefully the overlay's changed the correct one. Looks like it has. And what we can do is get ourselves ready, starting from scratch. It does this. The box just loads up to this screen after landing, so you've got to be a bit careful with it. Okay, GCLP 2. Lima Papa Mike Alpha, finally, as promised at the start. This time we're going to be AIH 222. We're just continuing these flight numbers. Which we started at random, but now I'm just carrying them on. Cost the next day, 18, a little bit slower, a little bit longer flight. Cruising up at flight level 340. So still not the maximum, but there we go. Put in that wind. Oh, no. Previous phase, wind request. Also the alternate is once again GCTS. Oh, not that one. S. There we go, so a long way back, yeah. Quite serious. So data, init, flight plan, departure from runway 03, and they want us to go from 03 right. And that does make sense. You'd use the one that's further away from the terminal for your departure. No, hold on, what am I talking about? Yeah, I'm quite surprised about the structure of the runways here. We're going to do the Bimbo 7 Alpha, which goes in there. Let's have a look. Flight plan, out, straight ahead, up. What is that line back doing? Let's have a look. Let's insert that, see how that shows up. Flight plan. What have I done in my setup here? GCLP, and then airports. Not doing that ILS anymore, we've done that. Turn our arrival. Let's go back. Sorry about this, guys. Most of an Alpha and RNAV departures. So we should depart 4 Bravos off that end, but we're going to head north to Ecos. Why is there a discontinuity there? Ecos is let Colon, Ice, Nervo. So that all makes sense. Just seems to have this initial leg. I'm not entirely sure. Now there may be some local procedure I'm not aware of. So if I join those up, that will, let's see how reasonable that looks. I don't want to turn left too early. So straight ahead to Ecos. You wouldn't expect that sort of discontinuity in there. 1100 feet above, and then islet, and then colon and north. Okay, that's looking good. And then our arrival at the other end, you can see, if you look very carefully, you can see the plane shaking in the wind, which is quite good actually. It's, you know, on a really windy day, if you're sitting across the wind like we are now, the wind will hit that big fin at the back, and it will give you a bit of jostling around. You'll know it's windy, especially when you taxi out to the runway and you're waiting at the side of the runway. Usually that's when the wind is often straight across, and yeah, you'll really feel it. Right, charts. And then that's simply going to lead straight into our arrival into Madeira. We're going to do the RNAV Zulu 05 at the moment is the plan. Via Bimbo, via 532. And when it's that's okay, and we'll check that as we head on the way. So that's that's secondary. Again, we'd probably turn right, depending on your airline procedure, but I won't talk about the ETP again, as we've already done that. Radio nav 8, auto-tuned, and B time. Let's have a look at what we've ended up with. So 70.3 and 29.7. Excellent. Take off flap 1 and just make sure I got that fuel in. 9.2. Gives a takeoff weight 79.3. Yeah, so definitely an acceptable takeoff weight. So that's a NIT-B performance. No shift. That will be set to 1. Flex 40 today, so yeah, a little bit more thrust needed. It's a bit heavier now, these higher speeds. 161. Strong headwind though, so it should be absolutely fine. 161, 161, 164. 231 clean speed. So that's looking reasonable. What will be worth checking is, are there any speed limits as we head up north? No, not there. Not there, not there. Number 1, radar assistance, that's fine. And off we go. So no, it looks like not. As long as we make those restrictions. 250 knots, looks like we will. Absolutely fine. Excellent. So it does this. The ToLiss does this when the real airplane doesn't. If it sees a discontinuity, it seems to just lose out all the time and distance, which the real airplane would typically draw a line in between of some variety. So I will fiddle with that once we're on the way. But yeah, you'd expect to see a time and distance there, regardless of the discontinuity. Excellent. Right, so the fuel is on, the passengers are on. Let's get them sat down. They've got some AP bleed air going already. Transponder's still set to that. That'll be set to flight plan. This will be set to performance most likely. Set to arc. Okay, how are we looking? Let's have a look outside. So we're still in our lovely Air Tours Kestrel 321. I think the nice thing the X-plane does is it simulates this rudder sitting off to the right and the elevator droop. So yeah, without hydraulic pressure, the wind's coming from our right. It's just going to blow that tail, and then the flight controls will just sit there in the winds. They're still damped because there is some hydraulic pressure, so they don't flap around as such, but yeah, they do sort of sit low. Let's get rid of all the ground handling. Hide all, so we can actually get underway. Okay, getting a bit quieter in the flight deck now. Glenn Chambers, hello, thanks for coming along. Cam A321, thanks for joining us. So, how are we looking? Any ground controllers that we need to talk to here? We still are connected. Nope, still Unicom. And our route. Sorry, Matteo, I know the route isn't working, so if you are going to fly along for this one as well, is Matteo still over there? No, it's just us today. Excellent. So yeah, we're going to head just via Bimbo. Very straightforward route today. Just a little bit longer. So I think it's time we can get that pushback. Better pushback, pre-plan. Once again, heading south. This is like a mirror image of earlier.
Ground to cockpit.
Let's get
Plan
them
on knowledge.
on the
Come
way
into the
over.
menu when you are ready.
And I think I need to just do starts.
Ground to cockpit. Tau is driving up.
So one thing we'll check definitely is the cleared level on that SID. So look at this, all these initial climbs. We're doing the 7 Alpha. Climb runway heading to Ecos. So there you go, that's why there was that manual. So I've just sort of joined them up. Unusual to have sort of the patch like that. Below 4,000, climb flight 120, await further clearance. So 4,000 initially, because of islet, it has to be at or below. So 4,000 in here. 4. And let's make sure we have the right weather loaded up. So what's the QNH? Still 1018. Just refresh that. With that northerly, strong northerly wind, 26 degrees. Excellent. Cam A321 has got the 321 ToLiss having a look at takeoffs and climbs. I'm glad those videos were
All
useful.
doors and
Excellent.
hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Enjoy your dinner, Matteo. Yeah, I'm very jealous. It's I think we've been going quite a while now. Let's stop that timer and get that ready to go. The ground crew's connecting. Nose wheel steering disconnect appears up there. Brake fans can go off because what was those brake temperatures at? Yeah, 110. Okay, we'll leave them on actually. A bit low. Yeah, a bit of chat while I was away on that little break about vacating the runway. You can't call runway vacated until you've crossed the stop bar, and obviously that's in real life. In X-Plane, although we're doing our best, there was no line drawn as far as I could see there. But yeah, you need to make sure, and it's your tail that has to be clear. Basically, all parts of the aircraft need to be off the runway. It's used mainly in.
Connected and bypass being inserted. Release parking brake.
So ground crew's ready. It's used mainly in low visibility procedures because often tower will have a clear view of the runway and they'll usually know when you're clear. Sometimes they can clear aircraft to land depending on local procedures. You might say in daylight, dry conditions and so on that you're clear to land after, and then the pilots can choose to land if they think there's enough runway and so on, and they can see the other airplanes vacated that way if there's not time to call out. But that depends. That's a local sort of thing that different airports will use. Some airports like Paris, Charles de Gaulle, they'll clear you to land when there's still airplanes in front of you, and I think that's quite common in America. And then it's just a case of the pilots being able to see that the runway's clear for the landing. Okay, so ground crew is ready to go. Let's get ourselves underway. So I'm going to start the timer. Let's bring up that checklist for the open before taxi after start. Let's do not that one, not that one. Here we go. Record them. Done the weather. Talked about our departure. We're going to turn right again if we have an engine failure on the departure. Initial clearance is going to be to 4,000 feet. Transponder, still no code, so we're just going to set it to XPDR. Beacon light can go on. Windows and doors are obviously all still closed. Contact agency, start pushback. Here we go. Okay. Kestrel 222 on Gran Canaria traffic, pushing back to face south. And brakes release. That probably isn't a very useful call out to the other users on the aircraft.
And you may start engines.
Because I suppose, what does it mean? Clock's running. Off we go. Let's start up engine 2. So we got. No, we don't want the wheel page, otherwise it doesn't show up. There it is. Pressure in line. Start the clock. That was a very speedy turnaround, so I don't think you'd ever. Typically, you need at least half an hour for a turnaround, and that would be short. That would be if everything goes really well. There's some really slow pushbacks. I don't know what's going on with the better pushback. There we go. Oh, I suppose it's better than some of these pushbacks we've seen where it goes all over the place. So we've got that windmilling engine, although it does seem to be slowing down. It would actually spin the wrong way shortly because the wind's going to be coming from the back of the engine. I wonder if it's simulated where it will actually reverse. That would be quite interesting to see. Because yeah, you can have it where the engine's spinning the wrong way, and then you might struggle to start it up with a tail right into wind. I don't know if X-Plane simulates that. Doesn't look like it does. It'd probably start turning the wrong way by now. Let's start up engine number 1. Got pressure. There it goes. And yeah, already turning. Yeah, you could have it where it's spinning the wrong way. And in that case, you may do a manual engine start, or you may try and make sure you're pushed so that you're not starting engines with the tail. So you could start your engines before we did this turn, something like that. So there we go, it's cooling down. Now we've got the fuel flow, ignition, N1 increasing. So
operation complete. Set parking brake.
So we check outside, we're not moving. Set the brakes to park, they are set.
Disconnecting tow, stand by.
And we've done tow disconnecting. Once again, off we go. Right, that's available. Looking all very stable. So, oops, excuse me. First things first, that can go back to norm. Disconnect ground crew. Don't need APU at all. Once again, we're doing our 2 engines. Arm off, flaps to 1. And let's set that trim. 30.4. Get a clearer view. Lots of leaning around the flight deck at this point normally to make sure you can see it.
Tower is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. And signal on the right. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
There goes our ground crew. Excellent. Goodbye, ground crew. Thank you for helping us out. And off they go. So, seeing the engine stabilised, done all that. Start the timer it wants us to do. We know we only need 3 minutes for them to warm this time. Done the trim wheel, speed brakes, rudder trim. Oh, I think I did that, but you know, if it's set to 0, then it's not much use in just resetting it for the sake of it. But yeah, it could have some residual trim left on it. Right, while we wait for him, let's do the flight controls. So, full left, full right, neutral, full down, full up, neutral. And there's the wave, or it would have been if I was outside. Off they go. And we'll do the rudder, full right, full left, neutral. Flight controls down, all of those down. Let's get out of the way, and then we'll do the rest as we go. So let's see if I can help out and give more useful taxi guidance to what I'm actually doing. So we're going to take Romeo 12, Foxtrot, Romeo 6, all the way down by the looks of it, to Romeo 2, Romeo 1. Taking off from the right, aren't we? 03 right. So we're going to have to cross the runway at the end. So be very careful doing that. There's this aircraft in front, so we'll give them a warning. Let's take the Romeos that we're on already, just to make sure we're clear. Kestrel 222, taxiing south for a departure runway 03 by Romeo 12, Romeo 11, Romeo 10, and then Romeo. I'm sure he's got the idea, or she's got the idea. Right, no, that can stay there. Right, so those lights are on. Let's get ourselves moving. Brakes released. Off we go. Bit of movement. Bit of a brake check. There we go. All good. See, that's the problem with the simulator, where you can't adjust the brake pressure settings, so you're just sort of doing your best. But I've only got one button, so when I press it, it applies the brakes. Right, we're a bit heavier now. Taking up at 79 tons. Starting to feel that. Again, I think this is slightly sloped taxiway, because look, we've got the wing sitting just at 0 there and slightly above it there, so it does make a noticeable difference, or it did earlier as we were trying to park. Right, so let's wait till we're out of the apron and we'll do the rest of those bits. For now, heading south, and then at some point going to head over there, carving up in front of TFL, Arkafly. Is that right, Arkafly TFL? I'm not entirely sure if that's the right number. Yeah, Flygo 1, absolutely. It's great how they've got the different accents on the better pushback. I really like that. DG27, no, it's above 30 degrees. So we're okay at 26. I am Dimitri now. I haven't seen Sim Toolkit Pro. I'll have to have a look. Sim Brief, OFP, METAR, and nav charts. Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, I didn't know that existed. I don't know. Does that plug into the simulator, or what is it? Right. Where are we going to go? I think I said I was going to carry on and then take a left turn further south, so I won't confuse our friend there by ignoring what I said. There you go. Already had our 3 minutes. Warm engines obviously don't take long. The Neo engines, actually, I know these are just not simulated properly yet, but the Neo engines, when they're hot, they take longer to start up. They have to turn over for a while, so they sit there effectively fanning themselves cool. They turn around and it helps the core of the engine even out its temperature a bit, so that it doesn't buckle or start to bend. Right, off we go. Where's our left turn going to be? I think we'll just take the next left that we can see and get ourselves over there. That's where we want to be. Excellent. I think Air Tours had they had all sorts of planes, lots of 757s, and I think they had 767s as well. So I don't know if I think they had 321s to some extent. Certainly my travel, I'm pretty sure, did, which is what they became. Tango Delta has a good question. Is there a particular plane on your fleet that you have a particular affinity for, or do they all feel the same once you're in the flight deck? To be honest with you, typically they feel the same. You may, some might be newer or have some nicer things that you like. Maybe they have a different fit of something. So airplanes, can have all sorts of different. Maybe the seat cover's slightly different. Sometimes you get airplanes with nicer seat covers or newer ones. So sometimes there might be a reason like that, but typically individual ones, not really. Not me personally. Maybe other people do though. I imagine in a smaller fleet size, when if you know your airplanes quite well, then maybe you would start to get attached to individual ones. But typically, it would just be the one that gives you the nicest equipment, really. That's going to make your day that bit smoother. It's always nice. Right, let's hope I got this right. I think we're going to go left at the end down here, which will be Romeo 10. Is that Juliet? By the looks of things. So what else? Now we're out of that apron. Let's get that weather radar. Oh, it's already set to auto. Oh dear. Now that should have been turned off in the last flight. So that's very bad. Yeah, the weather radar. These tiny switches are very bad. You have to be very careful when the real airplane checking that these go off after landing because they're so small. And the difference here is that the real airplane would show you WXI. It would tell you on here, and you'd see it on the display if it's still on. So yeah, a lot of airplanes have a system that won't let it run on the ground. So the predictive wind shear on the Airbus will turn on when one engine is running on the ground, but the radar can turn on pretty much any time. So it's something you've got to be really careful with after landing. But yeah, like I say, it does appear on the ND, so you'd know it's there. Right, here we go, left on Juliet, and then right turn. Get ourselves round, right on Romeo, and then see what we've missed. Yeah, quite nice scenery here. All these little houses. That would be quite a noisy place to have your beach holiday if you're planning on staying there. Look at that windsock, horizontal, strong headwind, as we know. Right, let's slow it down. Lots of weight in this airplane. Get ourselves heading south. Okay. Right, here we go. What else is there to do? So, radar, done that, done the flap, set that to TCAS-TARA, set that to max. Oh, sorry, we're not doing that yet, are we? No, absolutely not. Right, okay, good. Put the train back on because that is going to be important. And yeah, let's do the takeoff config. How are the brakes doing? 90 degrees. So if I turn that brake fan off and that temperature rises, which in the real airplane it would, because the fans artificially lower that number, and it goes above 150, then yeah, that's not great. So I'll leave it on for a bit, let it cool down. And now let's get ready to cross the runway. Let's see if I've got a better ground chart to help us do that. We could take, yeah, R1 left, because that R1R looks like a bit of a holding bay. Sometimes airports have this sort of system where you've got two entrances that bring you out at the same point on the runway. But it just means if someone's got a problem or is waiting for the cabin to be ready or something like that, then they can go and wait and you can still get airplanes off. So we're going to cross the runway and line up on 3 right. Kestrel 222, Gran Canaria ground. We are going to cross runway 03 left and then line up at runway 03 right for a departure to the north. Okay, it's clear on the approach. We're going to get the lights on, and I'm just going to leave them on because why not? We're going to be heading straight over. Looks clear on approach. Can't see anything on the TCAS.
Gran Canaria traffic, Rainer 3 Papa Echo, approaching runway 03 left.
Oh.
We have 12 nautical miles to run.
12 nautical miles. Okay, right. So that will be fine. We'll get ourselves across and out of the way. Got the strobe lights on. Did he say 03? We landed on the left, didn't we? So he's probably landing on the left as well. I will announce before we line up and get going, but I think we're pretty much ready to go. We've done all of these items.
03 left.
Approaching 3 left, that's fine. Get our SID chart ready. There it is. Oh dear. Right. And Gran Canaria ground. Kestrel 222 lining up and taking off from runway 03 right, departing to the north. Right, let's get rid of that. It's clear on approach. Ding the cabin crew. There we go, all green. God, so much to do. I don't know how you guys do this all the time, where there's just one of you doing it all. It's amazing. Really hard to keep it all under control. When there's two of you, you can, it's all balanced out properly.
On
Let's do a
runway
stationary departure for this one.
03, right.
And we've got our brief. We're going to head off to the right if we have any engine trouble on this takeoff. We've got our speeds in, higher speeds, heavier weight, climb nav blue 152 up to 4,000 feet initially, and then further we've got to be below 4,000 at islet. Absolutely fine. Okay, this is all done. That should be on perf. And looks like we are ready to go. Kestrel 222 taking off, runway 03 right. And off we go. So 50%. Holding on the brakes. Make sure those brake fans go off. That would be something you would do at this point, or certainly earlier than that point. And brakes released. 2 clicks forwards. Manflex 40 SRS. Order thrust is blue. And off we go. Slightly slower acceleration on this one. All that extra weight in there. Should have had that half down. There we go. Right, 80 to 100 knots. Get that side stick to neutral there. Off we go. The wind seems slightly more down the runway this time, so not having to use as much rudder, which is good. There's RV1 and rotate, so 3 degrees a second. Up we go. Positive climb, gear up, into nav. And I'm not going to go left. I do not want to turn left into the hills. We're just sort of heading to that Ecos points. Feeling a bit of the turbulence today though, definitely. Wow, yeah, it's definitely got bumpier than when we came in on approach. Right, one click back, thrust climb, order thrusts, lowering that nose. So, leveling up at 2,000 feet, let's put in that autopilot. Got that gear up, good. Accelerating, quite a high S speed now because of the extra weights. Yeah, quite choppy. And off we go. So 4,000 feet initially at islet, and then we'll climb up after that to our cruise 340. You can even see it, the fact that it's got that strong headwind pushing us around a little bit. So this is interesting. It's going to be turbulent, so going to be a little bit careful making sure we get these flaps retracted at the right time. What's my frame rate? 50. Okay, feels a bit sluggish. Right, entering cloud, but it's nice and warm, 26 degrees. There you go, the flaps have auto retracted, so I haven't done anything. Now we're above the S speed. We can bring in the flaps. Make sure you've got some sort of acceleration when you do that. You don't want to have an airspeed that's reducing or staying still as you bring in the flaps, obviously. Leveling off at 4,000 feet, no traffic above us, that's absolutely fine. So we've met the restriction at Ecos, speed out star. And away we go. I imagine, I don't know how many flights are running to the Canary Islands at the moment in the current situation, obviously, but if anyone has been there today, I imagine they had quite a bumpy either approach or takeoff. I assume there are some flights running of some variety for some airlines. Study level streams, yeah, I agree. The Neo engines can be really slow, especially if you've taxied out on one engine and you're trying to get the other one to start up before you need to leave the runway. Yeah. Study level streams, do you have foot warmers? Yeah, foot warmers are something you see quite rarely. We may be having some issues with the stream. I do apologise, guys, if things are cutting out. But yeah, you do occasionally see foot warmers on certain aircraft. It's a little button here, and it should heat up these panels under here. Very rare, and I can't say, and I don't know. I did see a video on YouTube. There's a video by a pilot. He does you guys might have seen him. I think he's done 350, and he seems to be SAS Scandinavian. And he did a video on the 350, and he was showing that it had foot warmers, but he took his shoes off and put his feet on these panels, which how he could feel them. Yeah, I don't on short haul ever take my shoes off while flying, but maybe on long haul things are different, because obviously there's a lot more time. So yeah, so maybe you could feel it then. I know that some of the long haul Boeings have that. I've got friends who've flown 777s, and they talk about the foot warmers. So yeah, but I can't say it makes a huge difference to me on the short haul I've been doing anyway. Right, 4,000 feet, up we go, and we want to go all the way up to 340. Just check that it's not a further restriction. That was below 4. All good. Above 100. Right, off we go. 340. Thrust climb, open climb. I'm going to put in standard, and there it is, 340. Kestrel 222, climbing flight level 340, heading north from Gran Canaria. Right, what we should have done, as those flaps came in as well, was disarm that, get rid of these lights. There we go. Those lights would typically have turned off as the gear came up anyway, but it's something that you do because it's just a micro switch, I suppose. All these things can fail, so if you turn it off as a backup anyway, it's a good idea. Study level streams. Well, study level streams saying that they don't have any foot warmers, but they always hear about them overseas. Well, yeah, I don't personally. I don't think you're missing much. He's not on short haul. I've never really felt any difference. Very rare that I've used them over the time I've been flying the Airbus too. Very rare to see it. Still sort of bouncing around a little bit, but that's fine. Up we go. Just going to accelerate at that magenta dot, so that's our 10,000 foot acceleration point to our en route sort of cruise and climbing speeds. This is a bit nicer, isn't it? We've got a bit of time now to actually get set up for Funchal, which I'll show you shortly. Funchal's a very interesting destination. It does typically require, it's got extra limitations. So the authorities in Portugal require, or in Funchal I should say, in Madeira, they require their own limits, so they'll want pilots who've flown for a certain amount of time and so on, that they won't let anybody just come and do it. It does take a bit of extra training, and a lot of airlines will have their own procedures, which could include extra training for the captain, maybe, typically, something like that. It all depends. But yeah, it's notable for being a more involved airport to fly to. It takes a bit more concentration in the terms of training and preparation than some other destinations. Mo says that they have ACT tanks in the 319. I didn't know that was a thing. I've actually put one on today. I did add an ACT up here because I've figured that maybe Air Tours would have had ACT tanks because they were flying these longer routes for these holiday destinations. So it might be a plane that needed it. Good. There's approaching 10,000 feet. Let's get rid of those landing lights. Nose is low enough. Yeah, below 10 degrees. And it's going to go down, so turn that off. Check the red nav's clear. Copy over the active into the secondary. Looking pretty good. Fuel is looking reasonable. And off we go, accelerating. Still 326. I still think that's quite fast. I'm not entirely sure. Because we're at what costinix? We're quite a low costinix today. 18. Yeah, I'm surprised. I don't know if that 327 is realistic. The costinix speed will change depending on the headwind. So if it thinks it's a really strong headwind, it will be higher. If you're flying with a low costinix, like costinix 0, the lowest you can have, with a strong tailwind, the speed will be amazingly slow, especially in the cruise, because it would just take advantage of the tailwind and use that to get you there quicker. It's quite a clever system, but yeah, even so, that seems quite high, 328 knots. Michael Sikula, thanks for joining us. And working current job, watching future job in the background. Very good. Geordie, thanks for coming along. Thomas Mortimer, could you explain or do a video about flare law? I think I understand it, but demonstration would be better. Very interesting, Thomas. Yeah, flare law is it easily could be a whole video on its own. There's been some debate. I don't know how the ToLiss simulates it, but effectively you're in normal law on approach, and then as you come over the threshold, the airplane will start to do a few clever things to try and simulate a normal landing feel for the pilots. So yeah, that's definitely a good idea for a future video. Andy H1302, did you file a flight plan? Now I thought I did, Andy, but I did have to reload into X-Plane. So let me file it again. So I filed the flight plan, but I reloaded in to get the call sign to change. So maybe by reloading in, I should have done that before I filed that flight plan. I didn't know it dropped out. So thank you for that. Before I get in trouble with the VATSIM authorities, because I know they do like it obviously to be done properly, which I can totally understand. So where are we going to level off with those crazy climb speeds? Yeah, I mean, look at that, halfway there. I'm going to do my usual. I'm going to put in cost and X0, just get that speed to come to something more reasonable. And then we'll see all that mess at the other end shortly. Yeah, quite an interesting place, Funchal. Let's get rid of these charts. We're done with that, done with the terrain over there. And it's finally time. LPMA. Here we go. So 02013, gusting 23. Okay, so we were hearing some sort of 30 plus knots earlier, but that seems to have calmed down a bit. Certainly a definitive 05 arrival then. So we're doing the Bimbo arrival for Alba, which is coming in from the south. Bimbo, Abuzu, clearance limit. So Bimbo, Funchal, Abuzu, and then from Abuzu, that's where it gets a little bit messy. Arnav Zulu Alpha, or RMP Alpha, sorry. Nope, not RMP Alpha. There was a Zulu, I think. AR, here we go. We talked about AR before, we did one into Gibraltar. And this takes us from the MA532. So let's see, we're still climbing quite reasonably. Yeah, let's have a quick look then at what this involves. So let's bring that range down, set that to plan. And if you look here, as you know, our airlines that we fly around in, or I've been flying around in, that I always end up flying them as AR. But AR means authorization required. It just means that there's more procedures you need, and the aircraft has to be qualified, the crew have to be qualified. Typically because it involves some sort of turn whilst on the final descent, and the coding needs to be checked more carefully. You need to have ways to escape from it if it goes wrong, that sort of thing. Right, so Bimbo, Fun, Abuzu. Yeah, and then it doesn't quite tie up, so perhaps I shouldn't have done that arrival via Abuzu, because effectively we want to go to MA532, which is there. So I'm not entirely sure how you would end up heading there. Let's have a look. Because I mean that's got us going over there at decimal 76, and then it wants us, doesn't really know how it wants us to descend, so that doesn't have a descent point in it yet. So if I end up doing that, as long as I come over the top high enough, if I clear that. Now guys, as I said before, this is just for X-Plane. I'm just making this work. Someone can correct me if I've done that wrong. Yeah, that's no good at all. That is no good at all. Because we're not going to be able to MA532. We don't descend until 522, which is going to be a little bit further along. 522 is there, and at 522 we descend from 2,000 feet. Okay. So what I could do is put in... I'm really not sure. The initial fix is 532. What I'm going to do... And then there's another fix at 526. Okay. I think we're going to have to radar vector ourselves to the 532 unless we get hold of some air traffic controllers. Quite interesting. If you ever see this and you're not happy because clearly the plane's going to fly way too wide there, it's got its decel point there. So if I put in a speed limit at Abuzu, oh, not there. Again, this is not the right way to do this. But if I said I want to be, let's say 180 knots, flap 2, so I put in 180, then it may help. But then it's got 230 knots at the other point anyway, so it's just going to accelerate again. As you can see there, it wants to be 220. So that's not worked at all. Oh dear. Right, I think we're going to radar vector ourselves because that is just no good at all. No good. Can't be doing that because you're going to be wide as you come around all of those waypoints, which is just no good. You could do it yourself if you slowed down, but I just don't think that's how you'd expect. So let's do RNAV 05 Zulu. We're doing the BIM, and I think that seems to automatically include the waypoint we don't want, which is a bit frustrating. Yeah, it does. Okay. 532. Okay, fine. I'm going to leave the discontinuity. I need to plan my descent accordingly and make sure I'm ready for it. And then we'll take radar vectors out to 532 in this case. Maybe we can figure it out from the charts. Yeah. And the H1302. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I bet traffic don't like it if you haven't got one filed. I'm Dimitri. Have you ever flown TERP circle to land, or is it always pans up with you flying to Europe and whatnot? No, typically it'll be pans up style circling. So the one we sort of saw in Genoa when we did our Genoa flight. Oh, study level streams. You've just solved my issue. Thank you very much. I did the wrong thing. I did this. I did an altitude constraint. Of course. Yes. Right. 180. There we go. This is why there's always two. Okay. So out of interest, let's see if we connect to these now. It's still not great, but it has at least trying to slow down there. So we'll leave it as that for now. It will give us a backup for a descent point. But yeah, that's obviously too sharp of a turn that we wouldn't expect to do. But yeah, great. Yeah, 180 feet is an altitude constraint. It was never going to hopefully try and do that. That would not be working out for us. Right, let's keep our climb going. Excellent. Matt Hain says, what happens when you fly into a disco? So if you have a disco, by that I'm assuming you don't mean the music and dancing, but you're referring to a discontinuity in the flight plan, which we don't have now because I've cleared them out. If you do have a disco, it'll just reach that point. It will warn you before you get there, and then it will just continue on a track. You could, if you set a heading in here, it would appear in the window, and then when you reach that discontinuity, so the last active waypoint, it'll just revert to that heading. If you don't do anything, it will just revert onto its current sort of track. So yeah, so it just carries on in a straight line basically. Getting a nice view. Sort of scattered clouds, seems to be doing quite well. Sun's still quite high, so yeah, I thought we might be flying around in slightly gloomier skies, slightly darker, but I suppose we're not really any further east. In fact, we might be slightly further west than we are here in the UK, so that might explain that. How are we doing? Half an hour after setting off, not too bad. But yeah, so this will be the planning, guys. What we're going to do is eventually, either way, we'll get ourselves into MA 532. Maybe I'll enter a hold there. That could be the neatest way. Then we're going to head south. 530 is 2,000 feet is the cleared level. So 3,000 down to 2,000, but you've got a long leg to do that. Passing 526 is this right turn, and this is why it's an AR, because these are all curved radial to fixed legs. And there's another one in the go around as well, so you need to be prepared for that. And effectively that'll bring us out on the circling. Now there's other ways to do this. There's loads of approaches into here. I was looking earlier, it's just amazing. So we could do the RNP Alpha 05. This effectively brings you out sort of half the way to 566, and then you put in your circle here, and you'd bring it visually round. Another one would be the VOR. So if I did, there's the visual part of the VOR. So yeah, so you could just track out 211, 3.6, recommended 190, head out, and you've got these little waypoints. So that's 6 miles on that 211 radial. So what you could do, what have I done there? Let's rotate that around. Is you could draw these waypoints in. I've shown that in other videos where there's ways to draw in actual pilot waypoints. So you could draw those points in. So one at 6, one at Yellow, one at Rosario. You've got your heights, and then that's just a good backup, and then you can fly visually round because it's a big 180 degree turn. But if you've got that loaded in, that gives you a good clue where you need to be and what heights you want to be at. Obviously, as you come here, you're going to be looking at these hills, and I've seen some videos, you guys might have seen the Just Planes videos and so on, of flying into Madeira, where there's a potential for GPWS warnings and all sorts. So hopefully we don't get those today, but we'll see. airlines will have their own policies as to what you should do, but hopefully if you do it right you won't get those, is my understanding. And yeah, you've got the light system which isn't displayed sadly in X-Plane. I'm imagining you could somehow activate it, or maybe someone clever has made it, but yeah, you're just going to turn it, follow these lights round and onto the final, and then bring ourselves in. Yeah, so big risks here. Obviously it's all this terrain, it's the wind, it's the it used to be a short runway but now they've doubled it in length, which is removed that problem, but it's still designed to be really close to those hills. So yeah, it's quite an interesting place. Dimitri, what happens if you fly into a disco? I mean, the music, yeah. Very good. I don't know. I do not know. It's thankfully not something I've experienced, so that would be quite startling, I'm sure. But yeah, it'd be nice to go. I don't know. There's no dancing going on at the moment in a lot of parts of the world, as we're certainly not allowed to. But maybe soon that'll be back up and running. Michael B, always good weather in Funchal usually. The north of the island can be a bit changeable. Oh, there you go. Interesting. Thanks. Yeah. So that should give us a good clue. Now, I mentioned earlier that the wind could be an issue, because if you look at what we're doing, I don't think it's on that chart actually. Sorry guys, let me bring up the bigger chart. I don't know why I sit here making you read it on that one. There we go, much bigger and brighter. Now, we're supposed to be doing this one, and you've got these wind limitations for landing relative to touchdown, anemometer 2 minutes mean values only. So quite strict on the wind limits here, quite rare, but places with special terrain often do this. But most airports obviously don't need to. So we're landing with a wind of, let's see, I hope it's within limits for this. We got the average wind is 020 13, gusting 23. So we get to the right chart, 020, so we're just on there. There doesn't seem to be a limit between 01 and 02, but from 02, 20, gusting 30. So we are okay, because it is 13, gusting 23. But yeah, they've got their own limits because of the unique terrain and the way it can affect the landing. I have been here in X-Plane as well, and it's a surprisingly upsloped runway, and worst of all, it's got a really strong tilt to it, which I don't think the real runway has. But yeah, you'll see what I mean when we land. So I'm going to make my excuses now for any landing rates, because the upslope is quite pronounced, but also the way the runway is sloping to the right. So when you land, you've got the sort of 5 degrees of bank on once you're rolling out. It's quite amazing. I'm not sure if I don't think that's representative. I don't think they'd have a runway with an angle like that on it. Mo saying terrain inhibit, yeah, so you can turn off the GWS, but you have to be very careful. So perhaps the operators that go here do that. Maybe they turn it off. If you turn off the terrain or the systems. I did have a go earlier and I didn't get any warning, so let's see what happens if we do it like this. Into our last 1,000 feet to go now. Looking good. Michael B, who seems to know more about Funchal than I do. Unfortunately, the airport and runway are not modelled correctly in X-Plane. So there we go. Yeah, I didn't think it didn't seem quite realistic. Right, final bit to level off. We'll enter our out cruise shortly, but we're going to have to be very careful of our descent point, because it's could be quite different. Only 80 miles away. Once the airplane's in out star, it's quite hard to get it back into any sort of other mode. The only real way is to push to level off if you need to, but hopefully if you've controlled your climb you won't. So there's Mac and out star. Out cruise. Let's do our systems pages. Oh, looking pretty good. Excellent. You can see there on the bleed page now that the engines are running at this higher RPM. It doesn't need to use the high pressure valve. As you come to the top of descent, the engines go to idle, the high pressure valve will open up and automatically give you extra air. That's to keep the pressurization running. 7,000 feet cabin altitude, we're quite low today. Otherwise all looking pretty standard, pretty good. 2.2 tons of fuel. If we add that onto 7, That's 9.2. Excellent. APU's off. Cabin temperatures are fine. Doors are fine. Wheels are fine. Flight controls looking all green and good. So that's great. Let's go and set that TCAS to below. Oh no, we left it on below from before. That's fine. As I said before, not ideal, but if it's busy in airspace, you should obviously probably end up changing it to look. But it doesn't actually affect the TCAS's capability. Okay. Right. Let's get this stuff loaded in then, so we don't get caught out. Quite a few bits to prepare. This is, like I say, this is something that you'd definitely have some sort of extra preparation for, whether it's extra training or simulators, things like that. QNH 1024, so higher as we head north. 030 at 18. Gusting 28. Oof. Yeah, it's pushing it. Temperature 22. Okay, that's all in. Config full for landing, absolutely. That's my plan for today. So here we go. This is the magic of the RNP stuff. Now, somebody may know more about this than I do. Because, yeah, I'm not by any means going to pretend to know everything that goes on with RNP AR. But you see, RF required, radial fix, baro VNAV not authorized below plus 7.5, so quite strict on the baro VNAV. That's quite a warm temperature. Often it can be down to 0 or even minus 10, maybe minus 15, but yeah, very strict. But we have these different requirements. So if you've got RMP 0.1 or RMP 0.2, you've got your different minima. Let's say we have RMP 0.3, Cat C, 9, 10. I mean, it won't matter today, thankfully, because of the cloud base is not an issue. 1,600 feet scattered. So before I embarrass myself, let's take the 0.2, 820. Now, obviously, in real life, you're not going to just guess like this. You're going to have your own procedures, and you'll be certified for different things. So 820 goes in there. Next phase of the go round 2.5. That's strange. I didn't know that in, I don't think. So here's the go round. Climb to 3,000 feet. So put in 3,000. It must have remembered from the previous slides. I don't think it normally does that. No, it doesn't in fact. Climb to 3,000. Follow those right turn arcs, maximum 210 knots to hold or as directed. Let's check that the coding's in here. Plan. Zoom all the way in. Right, let's have a look. Flight plan. There we go. So we talked about this already. We're going to try and get ourselves to 532 another way out, rounds, and the arrival. Normally, we would check this very carefully as well for the vertical profile. So we're expecting to start our descent from 522. So there goes 6,000, 3,000, 2,000 feet at 522. Then I'd expect to see a minus 3 degrees or whatever angle it is there. So today, 3 degrees yet. So sadly, that's not in the ToLiss yet. It's not modeled. I can see an amber. So yeah, it's going to struggle with the speed. So we're going to make sure we're a bit slower than 220 knots at 526, which sounds pretty reasonable. But it is a mandatory 2,000 feet at that point. And then right turn round to the runway. And we'll do that in final lap because it would just fly us around the turn all on its own, which is, yeah, really clever stuff. Really. This new RMP does take a bit of extra training, as we said, but there we go. Then 552, right turn all the way round. Look at that, all drawn in, 210 knots. Around to hold down there at 3,000 feet or above 3,000. 210 knots then for that turn. Clean is 227, so we need to leave flap 1 out until we're past that speed restriction. So we will do that. We must remember not to retract the flaps in the event that we go around past 1, even after we accelerate. Good. As we said, MSA is really high, 8.2 off to the southwest. But if we use the final lap, they bring us out onto final. And then we can just make sure we line up with the centre line and then carefully get ourselves down and into that upslope. It's going to be quite pronounced. Excellent. There we go. Mo and Michael B. Left seat only, landing captains only. Yeah, that would make sense. It's one of those places that's earned it, I'm sure, with all these different restrictions. So the alternative, as I said, was to do this VOR where you could draw in these points, but it essentially turns into the same thing. We're not going to have this visual landing system, so to visually fly this turn in the simulator is a little bit artificial, just because you don't have enough visual cues to really do it for a whole 180-degree turn. But yeah, so if you drew that into the box, which you can do, so you would type in fun 211 6, and that point would appear, and then you could type in yellow and Rosar, which are waypoints, or you could draw them in using their distances and radials and so on. But yeah, excellent. Let's have a look how we're doing. Yeah, lovely day. Nice and smooth up here, 40 knots across, but yeah, that's quite common. You could be sitting here with 100 knots across and it could be perfectly smooth. It's when the wind changes you get the real turbulence usually. So if you're expecting to cross a jet stream or something like that, but if you're just flying around, yeah, even in the middle of a jet stream, it might be quite smooth for a little bit. So talking about reverse idle and forward idle and so on. So I know on that last landing we had a bit of a had reversers out, and I was running up the reversers instead of running up the engines, trying to get the airplane off the runway for Matteo behind us. But yeah, so when do you normally select forward idle on the reversers? That came up, I think, in one of the videos or maybe on the Discord. But yeah, forward idle typically it's around taxi speed. So reverse, if you use maximum reverse at 70 knots, you've got to bring it through to reverse idle. If you keep high reverse as you slow down too much over the ground and through the air, the engine will start sucking in its own exhaust. It will pick up debris off the ground and be damaging the engine potentially, and also it can start to have sort of compressor stalls or banging as the airflow is disrupted. So you don't want to be using high reverse power as you're getting slower. So at 70 knots we bring it to reverse idle. Now if there's a problem, so we're not slowing down fast enough or something like that, then yes, you can use reverse in an emergency all the way to bring it to a stop. But if you're happy you're stopping safely, then at 70 knots you would bring it back to idle. And then you're going to bring it through to forward idle when you get down to your sort of taxi speed, because you don't want to do it. There's no point getting to 60 knots and then just bringing it through to forward idle. You may as well get a bit slower, because once you do bring it to forward idle, the engines will give a slight boost in thrust. You do feel it on the real airplane, because reverse idle still gives you a little bit of reverse thrust, so it does make a difference, just a little bit though. But yeah, so it's quite funny that came up on that specific approach. Right, how are we doing? So we've got our terrain on. So let's finish loading this up. Actually, that's what we should do. So we've done the flight plan, done the rad nav. So we're not doing the VOR, but I see Michael has the specific point. Rosro, yeah, there you go. Sorry, not Michael. Andy. Rosro is Rosario. Yeah, there you go. So it is possible to tune those in, and I did have a go. I didn't think that you could do the pilot waypoints as well as you can now. I don't know if ToLiss updated that, or maybe I was doing it the wrong way for the ToLiss in another video. But yeah, you could actually draw in these waypoints. But let's not get confused. We're going to fly this one in and around. So there's flight plan, rad nav. It's all being done on RNAVs, including getting ourselves out to the hold. Progress page is what we need to do. LPMA. And it's runway 05. We have the threshold in there. So we're 95 miles away. So yeah, we're going to go north before we head south, because they can't have everybody hanging around on the south side of the airport. So probably that descent point isn't, 15 miles. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty realistic. Performance page, we've loaded in, put all that in. Config full landing, 820, 3000 for the go rounds. Fuel, 2.2 extra, plenty of extra fuel we gave ourselves. So we got that contingency fuel. And we've climbed straight up to our cruise, so that's all looking good. Secondary, just make that a copy. Great. I suppose in the secondary what I could do, very briefly, is just show you that other arrival. Oh. So you could put in, let's say we were going to do the VOR onto 05, VOR alpha, insert. So let's just check I did that right. So definitely right. VOR alpha, yeah, 532. Okay. I'm not sure what is going on here. It doesn't seem. Why won't it return? No, I'm tempted not to to fiddle with it too much in case I mess it up. But as you can see, if we go secondary, plan, zoom in. Something strange going on here. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. Right, Bimbo, Abuzu, 532, and then down, and then that just heads off into the distance. 526. I'm not sure what's going on here, guys. I'm not going to fiddle with that. We'll leave it as it is, doing the RMPAR before I make a mess. But yeah, as I said, to get like this point here, let's say you wanted that point 6, you could type in into the secondary. Let's see if I can do this. If you just typed in fun for the VOR /211 for the radial /6, and then you'd be able to have that. I'm not sure. No, it won't work there. Put it in before Funchal, and then it just appears, and that's its geographical coordinates. But we're not doing that today. But yeah, good. Right, expecting to begin a descent soon. Decelerate. Down we go. I always typically start with flight 100. I know that's safer terrain. Let's put it into manage des. Off we go. DG27 says, with RadNav, it's the aircraft doing the tracking, is that correct? With RadNav where? So, with pretty much, with RNav, yes, the airplane uses these GPS primary, it uses its IRs and so on. So airlines will have different procedures for what's required to fly these approaches. So to have the requirements to fly this RNPAR, there'll be all sorts of different things, RF required, and it'll be probably GNSS required and that sort of thing. To do this. So that's just the airplane tracking it based on its own knowledge of where it is in the world, and these waypoints are sort of coded in, so we don't fiddle with the coding, but yeah, there they are. If you're doing a VOR, something like that, then the airplane may use the same method, but you can back it up with the VOR, or you could track it manually. So in my track FPA video, I show you how to do that, where you are just using the VOR. So that's where you're not really using the airplane's knowledge of where it is, you're using your knowledge of the VOR and where that is to fly your approach. So there's always different ways of doing it. An ILS, for example, is you using a ground-based radio aid. So even if your airplane didn't know where it was and this map was broken and not working, you could still fly an ILS as long as you could tune it in, because it's based on the ground. The airplane doesn't need to know where it is for you to do that. Michael B is talking about yeah, Portuguese toasted tarts. Yeah, very nice. They are absolutely delicious. Madeira cake. Starting to see some land up ahead. I'm not sure what that is. There we go. Get our terrain display on. Let's zoom out the scale, get an idea. And I still don't think there's any controller running, so we can. No, looks like there's not. CZQX, where's that? I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, we should be good to. In this case, we'll vector ourselves over to the east and then head round from the north. How are we doing? I don't know how about you guys. I use this app called VatMap, which is freeware for my phone, and it's quite good at giving you a bit of an overview of who's around and where they're going, and if there's a controller. Yeah, they look like little islands just off to the southeast or east of Funchal. So it's hidden under the clouds there. I've just done, you might have seen that, I've done exactly what I keep doing with this setup I've got. I've got the HOTAS 4, and the thrust lever is really quite loose, and I just knock it with my hand trying to get a glass of water, and it just shoots through to toga. It's not such an issue at this stage of the flight. As you saw, I can put that through to toga, and we just get man toga, and it doesn't like it and would accelerate, so it's not great, so put it back to climb. But on approach, that would obviously cause a go around automatically. With the flap lever set to 0, it won't, because it would just go to toga thrust and it will stay in the other modes. But if the flap lever is set to 1 or above, then it would just go into a full go around. So I've had a few approaches where that's happened. So any day you might see one of those on this channel. Simon Workman says, hello, do I need to set the approach phase in the FMS every time? I haven't really understood what it's good for. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm assuming, Simon, you're talking about this activate approach phase. So what that does is as soon as you activate the approach phase, and I'm in managed speed, so you've got these dashes, meaning the Airbus is controlling the speed. So for now, the Airbus is controlling the speed to these speeds on here, 220 knots and so on. Once you activate the approach phase, it will automatically come back to green dots, so your slowest clean speed effectively. And then as you put out the flap, the Airbus will go to each green S speed, and then you put out more flap, and it would keep decelerating to the F speed until you're at your landing flap, and then it will fly V approach. So that's what happens when you activate the approach phase. If you don't bother, it will do it itself eventually. So if I go to plan, zoom in, flight plan, and I can actually see it drawn on here. If I zoom in again, there would normally be a delta. Where is it drawn on here? Not sure. Somewhere here. It's not very clear on this approach. That's a bit frustrating. I'm not sure what I've done. Have I missed it? Anyway, you'll see a magenta delta sign, and that is telling you that that's where it's going to activate the approach phase and slow the aircraft down. Oh, there it is. There's a magenta delta there. So at that point, it will activate approach phase and start slowing down for you. So that's what the Airbus is expecting to do, and that's what its vertical profile is based on. But as I said before, that could be a little bit late. It could be, depending. So yeah, so that's why you activate the approach phase. If you forget to activate the approach phase and you go to manage speed, it could increase to 250 knots or something like that. So you want to make sure it is definitely activated before you manage the speed on the approach. Here we go then. So we're coming in from the south. Let's have a look. Then we're going to go fly up past the islands and back around this approach. Let's start getting ourselves. There's no one else out there, so I think we can radar vector ourselves. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to cheat. Let's go heading. Let's take ourselves up there. 355. We know we're safe on the terrain down to flight level 100. It's gone into vertical speed because when you're off your nav path, you can't use des mode because it doesn't know really what you're doing. So it's gone into a sort of reasonable vertical speed. What I'm going to do is, now I have no idea, guys, if this is acceptable. So do not copy me here. What we're doing here is just getting ourselves set up for the approach as best we can. But it looks like you can be in a hold at like Alpha 532, which is the initial fix. I certainly wouldn't modify it after 526, which looks like the start of the actual approach. So let's go to 532 directly. And that's going to cut out all those waypoints. So to stop that happening, I'm going to go. Let's have a look. So this is what I'm showing you here is probably more is only applicable to us here in Flight Simulator as we try and sort of connect things that would otherwise be guided by air traffic. But yeah, so that's no good, is it? Because I've put it to 532 and it's going to undershoot that point because it's going to try and draw that line smoothly. So you can see there that's no good. One way is I could put it in an overfly at 532. Oh, he says, but it doesn't work. Obviously not, as it's my 2 point. If I put an overfly at 530, for example, it should try a bit harder, although it doesn't seem to have bothered. But that's what that little delta means, which I talked about earlier. So none of this is working very well. So let's get ourselves closer in. We're going to turn downwind to get ourselves north of that point. Because you've got to be very careful with RNAV approaches. You don't want to be flying direct and missing points like that. That's clearly not acceptable. We're going to leave the LS buttons off because we are going to fly the RNAV. But we will very carefully check that GPS is still working and accuracy high. An estimated 0.05, and we only need 0.3 at the moment. We know that 0.1 is required later on in the approach. Now I have seen this number increase, so there's no guarantee you'll have it definitely at 0.1. I imagine there's maybe there's clever systems that are used for the aircraft that are certified to fly these sorts of arrivals. Here we go then, starting to decelerate a bit more. Holding altitude there, it's 3,000 feet. Seems totally safe, so let's go down to 3,000 feet. Let's set that QNH of 1024. High QNH today. So in a minute I'm going to take it onto heading. I don't want it to sequence to these other points, and then we'll fetch ourselves in. And that way we won't have to enter the hold if we can arrive from the other side. As a result of that, let's keep the speed up. Don't want to waste time here. Let's do speed. Let's do heading. And let's go right heading 010. 10 miles of beam, so we can keep tracking a bit closer. Get ourselves north around 532 and then in. Michael B says it's the only airport with a mandatory wind limit. There you go. Because it's unusual to see the wind limit enforced by the actual authorities at the airport, and they are wind limitations. There's no getting around it. It's quite interesting. Gibraltar had guidance about where there might be wind and so on, as we saw there. They had their own special charts, but they didn't seem to specifically limit us. So 3,000 MSA out here, which is what we're going down to. 2,000 within 10 miles of the airport. Lovely day here. Yeah, really nice. Heading in on the islands. Flight 24 says the terrain display looks pretty good. Yeah, it is generally very good. Gives you good SA. These black lines I think is an X-plane thing. You don't tend to see that. I think that's just where it's loaded up the tiles. But yeah, it shows you where the water is and so on. Gives you an idea of the islands. It's quite very useful. So we're getting a little bit high on the profile, a little bit fast. So now let's come back to 250. So manage speeds. In fact, let's just keep it at 250 because it might try and slow down earlier. What I could do now is I could go direct to 532. I don't want to get too close to these points or it'll resequence. That's why I'm taking us a bit wide here, because it might just decide, oh, you're flying to these points now, and then code us in from there. So it's quite nice to have free reign of the sky really like this. Matt Haynes says, what is meant by resequencing? Yeah, good question. I should have been clearer. So it might. So sequence is what waypoint is coming up next. So at the moment it's Mike Alpha 532. That's great. That's the waypoint I want coming up next because that's where I need to go. But it could automatically decide if I got too close to say the 530 or even the 528, it might say, oh, you're going there now, and it would just automatically say I'm going there. If you're far enough away, it won't do that, but it's something you have to be aware of. So that's what I mean by that. Let's get ourselves slowed down. So to 2,000 feet. Well, let's do open descents and speed brakes. So I want it to be sequenced correctly. Touchdown and open descent, meaning I want it to have the 532 as my next waypoint. Otherwise, if I try and go direct there, it may not be available, or it may go the wrong way, that sort of thing. So in the real airplane, once you're onto headings, you'll be quite careful to make sure. There we go. So it's sequenced to the 530, which is not ideal because I want to go to the 532 to start this approach. How do I get it back? Well, in the real airplane, you can actually press this arrow and then you could go back one waypoint and it'll be there. Sadly, that's not the case. So what I'm going to do is have to reprogram that approach. Thankfully, it's quite simple. RNAV Zulu 05 via the 532. RNAV Zulu 05 via Mike Alpha 532. Don't need a star. Insert. And now, the only problem I've seen before with this is it draws 2 in the ToLiss. There's 1532. No, it looks right. So let's get ourselves, yeah, we're past it. Mike Alpha 532. Obviously you need air traffic to clear for that. And down we go. Speed brake is out. Let's get that in. Nav mode. And it looks like it may, yes, so it's automatically activated the approach. That's another reason you'd need that. In this case, it's because to bring up these LDEV scales, you need to have the approach rate active as well. But like I said, it would happen automatically as you got closer anyway. Hopefully, Matt Haynes, that answers what you can do if it has resequenced. So yeah, you may need to retune it. What you don't want to do is fiddle with the waypoints after you've started your approach. Now this is a slightly different start approach, but yeah, with RNAVs you don't want to. You couldn't start retyping them in if there's coding. So if there's a coding for the approach, if it's part of the star, then you might just be able to retype it in and make sure you meet the constraints yourself. But yeah, so in this case, I've just retuned the approach and given myself direct to the 532. It won't auto sequence on you if you're in nav mode. So if I flew past these with a green line in nav mode and then turned around and came down, it would know. It wouldn't automatically sequence. It's only when you're in heading and flying around like we were that it can do that. Okay, let's go manage speeds. And now it's activated the approach phase. I know the speed it's targeting will just be green dot. That's what it would do. So 195 knots there, that's fine. We'll be flap 2 by then. But what we're going to do is head down and we're going to go past the 526 and I need to arm the approach before 522 and I need to be at 2,000 feet at that point, which should be no issue today. There we go. Starting to see the airport. Tempting to go nice straight in for 03 there. We're on the ground in no time, but the tailwind, and we know the wind on the ground will not permit that. Matt Haynes says, so can you still do a direct to a past waypoint that has been missed by the 16? No. In the real aeroplane, you could go one back, so you could actually get to that one waypoint by going direct. But no, we can only do the waypoints we've actually got in front of us in the ToLiss. Oh, and I should have said we're going to go for a low auto brake, flat full landing. I should have shown you guys the ground chart, but effectively. Airports, Pakistans. We're going to have to come off to the right, maybe a bit of a backtrack, but I think with that wind we might make that waypoint. As I said before, guys, this is not a tutorial on how to get into Funchal. That would be a whole video on its own, really. This is just me having a go, and yeah, hopefully a bit of enjoyment. But it's starting to get bumpy. Let's do 500 feet per minute. 528 above 2,000 feet, which we are. Plenty of fuel. We need to go around 63.2, 76.6. Ooh, how are we doing on our weights? All Airbuses have different weights. Landing weight 77.8, so yeah, we're below max landing weight. We're pretty tight, yeah. Right, let's get that chart back up. Not that one. This is the one. Good. So 195 knots in 10 miles at 2,000 feet. So let's set 2,000 feet in there. We know it's safer terrain. Let's put up flat 1. So flat 1 is out. As I've said before, this is where I wish the ToLiss had that really useful little blue arrow. It would show you where your current vertical speed is going to have you level off. And that way you can judge things a bit better in terms of getting a continuous descent. Also, with the tailwinds, that's going to be further along, and it could account for that. So yeah, that's quite a useful feature to have. I'm going to select the speed because it's not going to get slow enough. It might start spooling up, and I can't get flap 2 out. You can see the flap 2 limit there. So if I select a bit slower, not too much of an issue to go below that speed as long as you're not doing any extreme maneuvers or turning too much. So 2,000 feet. I need to be 2,000 feet by the 522, certainly. You can see the VDEV scales above us because it's just drawn an extended glide slope all the way out, so it'll just carry on. It could do all sorts of strange things, so I'm not really interested in it for now. I need to get myself where I want to be at the right point. Oh, let's do 190 knots then. And now we're slow enough. Flaps 2. Being very conservative here. Now, guys, as I said, I don't want to I don't want to make excuses, but I will for the landing already. You'll see what I mean about the slanting runway. It's quite severe. Right, here we go. Shortly we're going to take that right turn. I will do the replay for this one. Do remind me if I forget, because I did forget it to Gran Canaria. Study level streams, yeah, it's a Lua script for improved water. It was actually recommended to me by some viewers a long time ago. So yeah, it does certainly help, I think, with the water. But that's what it is. It's a Lua script on top of the normal X-Plane sort of water. I used to have different textures, but they stopped working with the Vulkan update. Okay, so 2,000 feet is where we'll level off. That's going to be fine. We don't really need to level off just yet. Let's do 300s. Let's manage that speed for the turn. There's the radio altimeter, exactly spot on because we're over the water, so they should match perfectly. I should probably tell someone we're doing this as well, shouldn't I, seeing as we're on VATSIM. Kestrel 222, about to circle to land runway 05 in Funchal. I don't know. I'm terrible for these callouts on VATSIM. The Ryanair gave a much better callout earlier than I've ever done. Okay, turning right now, so let's move over. Let's move it to our right-hand seat. We don't need 2,000 feet at 522. Oof, that's a long way away. Once we get down there, I'm going to arm the approach. It's sequencing correctly. As we come around the turn, there's the airport. So yeah, if you were circling, you'd fly the VOR, and then you effectively level off at 1,000, just like we did into Genoa, and then turn around the circling sort of procedure. Right, arm approach. There it is. Out final is blue, so it's armed in the background. App nav is ready, so it's going to fly us round, and we get these nice VDEV scales. Love the noise of those Neo engines. Zoom in on this page. Have constraints, definitely. Now I'm faster than I was last time I practiced this, so I suppose the GPWS may be excited about the speed with which we're approaching the airport. So let's put out flap 3. And then as soon as we leave 2,000, which is 160 knot limit. So yeah, it's good to be back here. F speed. There's final lap, which is engaged, which is good. And now the nose is coming down to meet 2,000. Going altitude was 3,000. There's radio altimeter. We're leaving 2,000 feet as we wanted to. Let's put the gear down. Oh, it's difficult doing it from this side. They should be on. They should be on. I hope the passengers can sit down quickly. Oh dear, it's been a while since I've done the stream. And we'll go to flat full. Get ourselves as slow as possible for the final turn. Ding the cabin crew. God, that is pretty turbulent. We're getting a little bit high on that profile. You can see the airport out there though, looking pretty reasonable. There's other airplanes on the ground. Oh, I better announce then, hadn't I? I hope I haven't missed out on their traffic. Kestrel 222, turning final to land in Funchal Madeira, runway 05. I suppose I should probably start there with Funchal traffic. But here we go, look at this, final lap, just doing it all for us. Let's hit that going altitude in 3,000 feet. There we go. Get rid of that. But yeah, we've got a serious approach speed, so it could... Why one's that? So sadly, no approach lead-in lights here, which is what you'd expect as we turn round onto final. Yeah, there's no speed restriction for the speed brake, Martin. You can use it at any speed. Here we go then. See, look at this last bit. This is where it's really quite tight, and this is where I think we'd see the lead-in lights. Right, come on airplane, turn right. Wow, that is quite impressive. 1,000 we were stable. Fully configured. Got the go around altitude in, we got the go around ready. If we need to use it, we need to use it. Let's get rid of that. Bring up the PFT. And now let's have a go. Autopilot off. Ah, now that reverts early, which the real airplane wouldn't do anymore. But let's put that bird on. Right, let's not get distracted with that. Oh. Yeah, so the real airplane would... let's get that sync rate under control. We can actually carry on to lower that these days. So 2 whites, 2 reds. Don't want to go through the center line. Just keep that sync rate under control. Oh, these are a bit over corrections here. It is bouncing around a little bit. So we're on the vertical profile. I'm not sure why the Pappies have gone to 4 reds, but we are looking at the touchdown zone now. Get that flare in. Idle. Bit of a float. Hold it there, hold it there. Kick off the drift. There he goes. Just try and keep it straight. And now you'll see that bank angle. Let's get those reversers out. Reverse. Green and decel. And let's get on those brakes actually and try and get a right turn. There we go. Look at that. Was that a positive landing rate of 152? Now here we go. Look at this bank angle. Over 5 degrees. I'm sure that can't be right. Okay, so slowed down through 70 knots, and we're now at our taxi speed, 20 knots over the ground. Forward idle. And I think we're going to vacate here. Funchal ground, Kestrel 222 vacating 05 onto the apron. So, as we're totally unfamiliar, as you guys have almost certainly been able to tell. We'll come off here and then we'll chat. And look at that, the airplane is just rolling down this hill. Wow, that is yeah, that's a shame. That modelling is a little bit out. As I've said before, airplanes are hugely sensitive to any sloping taxiways and so on. It really makes a massive difference on how they behave. Any slight downhill and the plane will run away, and any slight uphill and you'll struggle to get it moving. Because after all, we are just using air, so on these low speeds, it's quite hard to get it going. I suppose you could say not much torque, although I don't know if that's the official physics term for it. Almost certainly not. Right, let's bring it to a stop. Brakes are already hot. I'm surprised by that because that was low auto brake, but we were heavy. So let's get the APU up and running. 2, 3. Always. Strobe lights off, landing lights off. Good. LS buttons we weren't using. Yeah, so where it dropped out, so the flight directors turned off. That in the real airplane, if you were flying an approach like that, it wouldn't do that. It would stay in longer. It happened to be exactly as I chose to take it out anyway. But yeah, that's interesting and worth noting that would certainly be a reason this airplane would not be certified to fly that sort of approach. Disarm those. This time the radar can go off, please. Thank you. There we go. Set that to TA only. Right. Where are we going to park? I'm going to have to jump over. So we've come on. We're just on Bravo. Let's go and take a stand. Funchal grounds. Kestrel 222 taxiing to park on the main terminal. Oh. Now this is a glitch the ToLiss seems to have. Ooh, I'm not sure. We feel pretty stuck. Oh, we're going backwards. That's why. There we go. Yeah, as I said, very sensitive. There we go. 420 from flight 24. Michael V, thank you. Yeah, like I said, I should really remove that landing rate thing, but I know people like to guess, and it's fun to guess. But as I said before, that number is really, I'm really not sure where it comes from. But plus 152 is definitely a new record on this channel. I think it was +6 we had before, was pretty good. DG27, thanks very much for coming along. Enjoy your evening. We're going to have a little bit of a replay afterwards, but yeah, thank you all for coming along, and thank you again for getting us to 1,000. Everybody who's been watching and joining in. It's been really great fun. I think let's take out for 12. Let's get ourselves parked up. Now this is going to be tricky, turning downhill. This could go wrong, so let's take it really slow. Start the turn. Lights can go off, so don't blind the ground crew. Round we go. Oh dear. Here we go, down the hill. The one good thing is that when the brakes are hot, they really grip better. So let's get those fans on. But yeah, look at this. I'm just having to constantly apply the brakes. Look at that angle. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah, they really grip when they're hot, so they would be quite effective. Right, now this would be a good time to really check. Parking brake is definitely set. Park brake, pressure's on. APU is available. There we go. Engines off. Seatbelts off. Get those N1s down. There we go. Beacon off. And here we are. So welcome to Funchal Madeira. We made it, and then we're gonna coming upstream, head further north again. Hopefully with a nice surprise after our 1,000 subscriber mark. So fingers crossed I get that sorted in time. Let's disconnect from VATSIM now. There was no controller sadly for today, but there we go. And head ourselves back for a little replay, just to have some fun and see how it was. Let's go back up to here. There was our speed brakes as we initially started the approach. Gosh, it's been a long... Wow. Does X-Plane really do that? A 3.5-hour replay? That's quite impressive. So here we go, coming around in the last bit of circle. I guess that's the wrong side really, sadly, for the passengers. But yeah, thank you all very much for coming. So anytime if you'd like to come along again. There'll be more streams coming up in the future, more tutorial videos on my channel. There's a bit of a backlog on there if you need any tutorials for the flying the Airbus in X-Plane. Study level streams, thanks for joining us today. There you go, Study Level Streams is about to go and do another stream, so if you need some more flying around, there you go, San Francisco to San Diego. Sounds like a nice flight, hope you enjoy it. Martin Scott, thanks for coming along, glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, Study Level Streams, the water script is really good, I really recommend it. Hopefully if somebody else knows which one it is they sent me in the comments, please do pass it on. Right, let's get ourselves a bit closer in. That's no good, is it? Too far out. So there we go. Coming around the hills. Let's get ourselves back in the air. I'm not sure this will look as pretty as our landing rate meter suggests. So here we go, final approach. And then we'll do our classic view, external runway, and then I just whiz back. Oh, it's very confusing with the angles. Let's get ourselves to somewhere sensible. I know that the real spotters are often up on that hill. They get great footage because they can look down on the aircraft landing, which is really quite unique. And somewhere here, probably. Let's have a go. Let's see if that works. Wow, looks all very fast. It was a fast landing speed, given that weight. There we go. Touchdown. Letting the aeroplane settle onto that angle. And away we go. Brilliant. Love the Neo engines, love the noise. Big fan of this livery as well. So thank you to the person who made that. I think they made a few of the other ones. I'll add the link to the description in this video for another time. A321 Simpilot, thanks for coming along. Glad you enjoyed it. And let's just rewind and have one last view. Why not? From the cabin, somewhere here. Okay, guys. So I'm going to leave it there then. Thank you very much for coming along. And as I said, more streams to come up in the near future. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for the help getting to 1,000 subscribers. I'm really pleased. And thank you all for your contributions and joining the Discord. More videos to come in the near future. Otherwise, have a very pleasant and safe evening and enjoy yourselves. We've got some new music for you this time from Fly24, who's in the comments here, and he's written a new song which is on his channel, which I have linked hopefully in the description. So yeah, thank you very much and enjoy your evenings. Bye bye.